Chapter 172. Shao-Chi looked at him. Let's go. Chu Li said, why don't I seal my sleeping acupuncture point, and I'll be there after a nap? No need, Shao-Chi said. Seeing that she had made up her mind, Chu Li knew that it was useless to try and persuade her otherwise, so he simply kept his mouth shut, activating so close, yet worlds apart to the extreme. He was like a shadow flashing between heaven and earth. Every flash was at least 2 miles away, and the interval was a few seconds. The heart technique that Shao-Chi cultivated had created a strong physique, allowing her to adapt quickly. She could not see her surroundings clearly, only the distorted light and shadows. She closed her eyes, and the image of her second sister, Xiao Shi, appeared in her mind. From then on, they would be separated forever. Even with the suppression of the mental cultivation method she cultivated, the pain still surged. Shao-Chi's life jade union was broken, and they returned to the High Duke's public house. 2 hours later, the two of them entered whistling Wind Tower with pale faces. In the hall on the first floor of Whispering Wind Tower, Mulan, Zhao Qingshan, and Shan Shangquan could not stop sighing. Mulan's face was gloomy and gloomy. He gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. He had been taking care of Xiao Shi all these years, pouring his heart's blood and love into Xiao Shi. His feelings for her were no less than Xiao Taiying's. When Xiao Shi passed away due to illness, he blamed himself and was in pain. He hated himself for being powerless. Zhao Qingshan silently circulated his internal energy to regulate his breathing. There was a sense of sorrow in his heart. The second miss was really pitiful. She passed away at such a young age, when she was in the prime of her life. From time to time, he would raise his head to look upstairs. The second lady had passed away, and the eldest master was grieving. If anything were to happen to her, the public house would really be done for. Chu Li and Shao-Chi suddenly appeared in front of them. Third miss. Lin Kuan's eyes widened, and he hurriedly stepped forward to greet her. Third miss, you're finally back. Quickly go up and see young master. Second eldest sister, she? Shao-Chi asked calmly. Lin Kuan hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. Third miss, you should go up. Shao-Chi turned around and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li said, I want to go up and have a look. Mulan sighed. Young Chu, the second lady has already left. It's useless to see her. There's no hope at all. Chu Li frowned. He could already see the second miss in his mind. She seemed to be in a deep sleep, but there was no trace of life, only a beautiful shell. Mulan shook his head. I heard that there's a secret art. It's called the Eclipse Poloin. Do you know about it, Elder Gua? Chu Li asked. Mulan frowned. You know about this too? I want to try. Chu Li said. Mulan shook his head and said, a life for a life, and your lifespan will be halved. It's all right. Chu Li said, my life is not as valuable as the second lady. Only enlightened masters can use it, Mulan said. Chu Li said, I want to try. Mulan said, it doesn't matter if the second lady survives or not. You won't. Elder Gua, cut the crap and tell me. Chu Li said. Shao-Chi frowned. What do you mean? Third lady, this is a type of secret skill. You can use your own life in exchange for another person's life. Mulan shook his head. Only enlightened masters are qualified to perform this skill. Shao-Chi looked at Chu Li and said, the dead can't be resurrected. Chu Li, stop fooling around. Chu Li said, maybe the second lady isn't fated to die yet. You don't want to live anymore? Shao-Chi scoffed. She was very sad about the passing of her second sister, but she was still rational. She did not want Chu Li to do such a crazy thing. Chu Li smiled. I'm tough. I won't die so easily. He had records of this secret skill in his mind. It was not a life for a life, but a soul recovery skill. As long as the soul that was scattered between heaven and earth returned to its original position within 12 hours, the person could be resurrected. However, this skill was a fight against fate. There would be a backlash and lightning would strike. The power of lightning was impressive and supreme. Even an enlightened master would not be able to withstand it. There would be no chance of survival. Hence, there was the saying of a life for a life. Chu Li dared to perform this skill because he had the life and death scripture. He felt that he would not die. An enlightened master can't live under an enlightened master. How can you not die? Guomulin said impatiently. I know you love the second lady, but she's already gone. Even if an enlightened master came, he would be powerless. You should just accept reality. Chu Li frowned. Elder Gua, do you know about this secret skill? Fine, just you wait. Guomulin glared at him. He turned around and left the wind tower. Chu Li turned around and looked at Xiao Qi. Lady Xiao, you should go up first. Xiao Qi shook her head and slowly walked up to the third floor. She saw Xiao tying hugging Xiao Shi. He was curled up into a ball and crying silently. His body was trembling, and he was so sad that he could not make a sound. Big brother. She came to Xiao Taiying's side. She patted his shoulder. Xiao Taiying buried his head in Xiao Shi's shoulder and did not say a word. Xiao Qi sighed and did not speak anymore. She stood by the bed and accompanied him. The surrounding was so quiet that it seemed like it was frozen. Xiao Taiying's breathing was especially loud. Guomulin slowly walked back to the first floor and threw a thin book to Chu Li. Chu Li reached out and caught it. He looked down and flipped through it. Guomulin shook his head. He dared to give this secret skill to Chu Li because he was sure that Chu Li would not be able to cast it. Only an enlightened master could cast a secret skill. Chu Li would not be able to cast it successfully, and he would not be in danger. Chu Li's cultivation level was high. If a grandmaster could cast it, Chu Li might be able to do it. However, this was an enlightened master's boundary secret skill. It was worlds apart from the innate mastery's boundary. No matter how strong Chu Li was, he would not be able to succeed. Chu Li passed the thin book back to Guomulin with both hands. Elder Gua, I want to try. You really want to try? Guomulin frowned. Chu Li calmly said, Yes. You're crazy. Guomulin shook his head. Don't mess around. Master Xiao and Lady Xiao Qi are upset. Chu Li shook his head. Guomulin frowned and looked at him. Even if you succeed, you won't be able to live. I know, Chu Li said. All right, you won't give up until you try. Guomulin scoffed. Then let's go up. Chu Li fist saluted and slowly walked up to the third floor. Lin Quan stomped his feet and said anxiously, Elder Gua, why are you watching Chu Li mess around? He's infatuated with the second lady. He won't give up until he tries. Let him go. Guomulin shook his head and sighed. Sigh. Master will be angry if he messes around like this. Lin Quan said, I don't know what will happen if he provokes Master at this time. Guomulin scoffed. Chu Li is trying to save the second lady. Why is Master Xiao angry? Chu Li stepped onto the third floor. Xiao Taiying and Xiao Qi were immersed in grief. They did not know that he had come up. Chu Li did not disturb them. He sat cross-legged on the floor and began to visualize a statue of God in his mind. At the beginning of visualization, it was a blur. Only the outline of the statue could be seen. There was an invisible force hindering his visualization. It was similar to when he visualized the scripture of life and death. He did not panic. He was patient and meticulous. He pushed forward bit by bit. It was as if he was looking at a statue of God from afar. As he got closer, the statue became clearer. In the end, It appeared in the void of his mind. It was vivid. The statue's facial features were clear. Its hands were forming a mudra. It stepped on the void. He could see it clearly, but he could not remember it. He could only remember its furious expression. Chu Li formed a mudra with both of his hands. It was the same mudra as the statue. He spat out a strange incantation, Mu Mi Ba. Chun? The first word was said in a low voice. The second word was even lower. Each word was lower than the last. By the last word, there was no sound. There was an invisible force in the void. It was as if it had been awakened. It came from all directions. Inside the house, the windows were tightly shut. A gust of wind blew. In the blink of an eye, it turned from a gentle breeze to a violent gale. The curtains and clothes were fluttering. The two people who were immersed in grief looked at Chu Li blankly. Chu Li's face was filled with anger. He formed another mudra with both of his hands. He pointed at Xiao Shi and shouted, "Quick!" The violent gale seemed to obey Chu Li's command. It rushed towards Xiao Shi. The violent gale turned into a tornado. It pushed Xiao Taiying and Xiao Qi 3 steps away. Xiao Shi was in the eye of the tornado. The violent gale howled around her. The momentum was shocking. Her clothes did not move. She floated a meter high and then stopped. She lay quietly in the void. Xiao Taiying widened his bloodshot eyes. He looked at the scene in front of him in shock. Xiao Qi frowned. She guessed that Chu Li had used that secret skill. It was very likely that he would succeed. Chu Li changed the mudra with difficulty. He slowly said, "Return." A whirlpool suddenly appeared a foot above Xiao Shi's head. It instantly swallowed all the violent gale. It condensed into 3 bright spots and drilled into Xiao Shi's forehead. Xiao Shi fell onto the bed with a thud. Xiao Taiying did not have time to react. He slapped himself in frustration. He quickly looked at Xiao Shi. Xiao Qi also looked at Xiao Shi curiously. Chu Li sat cross-legged on the floor. He formed a mudra with both of his hands. His face was pale. The spiritual force from all directions drilled into his body. Xiao Shi's face was rosy. It was completely different from the green color from before. Under the gaze of Xiao Taiying and Xiao Qi, her long eyelashes gently trembled. She slowly opened her eyes and looked at them blankly. Second sister. The two of them were overjoyed. They went forward to grab her hands. Big brother. Third sister. Xiao Shi's eyes gradually became clear. She looked at their surprised expressions in confusion. Rumble. The faint sound of thunder came from the horizon. The sky suddenly darkened. Chu Li opened his eyes. "My lady, bring the second lady away." Xiao Qi turned her head and looked at him. Chu Li said, "You guys go first." Xiao Taiying looked at Chu Li and then at Xiao Qi. "Third sister?" Xiao Qi said, "You used the eclipse purloin, right?" Chu Li nodded. He smiled at Xiao Shi, who was sitting up. "Second lady, congratulations." Xiao Shi smiled sweetly. "I'm alive again?" Her smile was bright. The dark room seemed to be brightened. She was so beautiful. When the darkness slowly came up and swallowed her, she felt like she was sinking into a bottomless abyss. She knew that she would never wake up again. It was a true, eternal sleep. She did not know how long she slept. Suddenly, a bright light appeared and guided her forward. Finally, she pushed open a door and truly woke up. Rumble. The sound of thunder came again. It was closer than before. Chu Li said, "Second lady, you guys should leave this place first." "Chu Li, it was you who saved me again?" Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li smiled and looked up at the sky. "Let's go." "My lady, second lady, Master Xiao Taiying, If you don't leave now, it'll be too late. Siochi pursed her lips and looked at him deeply. Rumble. The sound of thunder seemed to be right in front of them. It exploded right above their heads. The wind tower was shaking. Chu Li's expression changed. He quickly said, "My lady." "All right." Siochi retracted her gaze from Chu Li and took a deep breath. "Big brother, let's go first." Sio Tying frowned. "What happened?" "I'll tell you later," Siochi said. She carried Sio Shi and walked out. When she was out of the room, she turned to look at Chu Li. "You're not allowed to die." Chu Li smiled. Chapter 173. Mulin stood at the entrance of the hall, with his hands behind his back. He looked up at the sky. The wind and clouds above Wind Tower surged. A strong gale swept through the island of Symphony. The trees rustled and flowers fell. Dark clouds gathered above Guanfeng Tower from all directions, dyeing the sky 1 mile in circumference black. 1 mile away, the clear sky looked like a drop of ink falling on a piece of white paper. Mulin frowned. Lin Quan came over. "Elder Guo, what's going on?" Did Chu Li really succeed? Mulin frowned and mumbled to himself. Zhao Qingshan opened his eyes and walked out. What did he succeed? Could it be the eclipse purloin technique? "The weather is so abnormal. This is the only way," Mulin said. "Isn't it only possible for a master of the enlightened mastery's boundary?" Zhao Qingshan asked. He knew the difference between the innate mastery's boundary and the enlightened mastery's boundary. Forget about the innate mastery and the enlightened mastery. Even the Grandmaster and the enlightened mastery were worlds apart. It's hard to say. Guomulin shook his head. He could hear the thunder rumbling from afar. It was getting closer and closer. He frowned and said, "This kid always does things out of the ordinary. If he doesn't make it, he'll be done for." Rumble. The thunder was right above their heads. As the three of them were talking, Sio, Tying, and his sister came down the stairs. "Second lady." The three of them were shocked. Sio Shi was supported by Sio Chi as they walked down the stairs. Her face was red like never before. Her eyes were bright and clear. She was indeed a beauty. Sio Shi smiled at the three of them and asked Mulin, "Elder Guo, what happened to Chu Li?" "He used the eclipse purloin technique. We have to leave this place as soon as possible." Mulin's face was pale. He pointed outside. "The thunder will strike soon." "Will he be in danger?" Sio Shi quickly asked. Mulin coughed and turned his head. "Master Sio, Lady Sio Shi, we can't delay any longer. There's no one else in the tower, right?" "Elder Guo, where's Chu Li?" Sio Shi stared into his eyes. Mulin shook his head. "He chose this path." "Then let's go." Sio Chi said calmly. "Don't let him work for nothing." Sio Tying looked up at the 3rd floor. He sighed. "Let's go first with the spirit blessing pill." As he spoke, he shook his head. The spirit blessing pill was not omnipotent. The spirit blessing pill had not been able to save second sister. Boom. Thunder exploded above their heads. The wind observation tower shook, and the ground trembled. Shao Qi pulled Sio Shi out of Wind Tower, and everyone retreated 100 meters away. The wind observation tower was shrouded in darkness, but there was light in the surroundings, so they could see clearly. It was like the time when lanterns were first lit. Kacha! A silver stripe appeared in the dark clouds, forming a zigzag shape as it hit the wind tower. The glazed roof tiles of the wind observation tower turned into powder and scattered with the wind. Boom! The sound of thunder resounded throughout the world. Xiao Shi quickly covered her ears, feeling as though they were about to be blown away by the thunder. Shao Qi glided forward and flew diagonally to the 3rd floor. She wanted to see Chu Li's situation. If the lightning struck him, he would most likely die. Crack! Before she could rush into the wind pavilion, another bolt of lightning struck down. She had already soared into the sky. Lightning illuminated the third floor. Through the window, a blurry shadow could be seen moving. Chu Li was still alive. She let out a long sigh of relief and landed in the midst of the thunder. "How is it?" Xiao Taiying asked. Xiaoqi nodded. "He's dodging." Xiaoshi said, "His light body technique is amazing. He can dodge it." Guomulin shook his head and sighed. Zhao Qingshan looked at him. Guomulin said, "It's useless. Lightning is so easy to dodge. How can an enlightened master not be able to withstand it? This is just the appetizer. It will get stronger and stronger. There's no way to avoid it. No one can survive." Xiaoqi frowned. Guomulin nodded. "As far as I know, not a single one." Xiaoqi's face turned pale. Xiaoshi gritted her teeth and stared at Wind Observation Tower. While they were talking, lightning struck down one after another, and thunder exploded. The intervals between the lightning strikes were getting shorter and shorter. Before the first Z silver chain disappeared, another appeared, followed by a third. On the dark clouds, there were 3 Z silver chains flashing at the same time. As time passed, more and more Z silver chains appeared on the dark clouds, and in the end, there were more than 10 of them. More than 10 bolts of lightning struck down at the same time. It looked like more than 10 gigantic cold swords were stabbing at Wind Observation Tower. The roof of Wind Observation Tower was erased. The walls were still there, but the windows were gone. They could see Chu Li moving in the lightning, dancing with death. Everyone clenched their fists, sweating, and their hearts were in a mess. The lightning became more and more concentrated, and in the end, it formed a pool of light, unavoidable. Chu Li's shadow was nowhere to be seen. They held their breath, ignoring the blinding lightning, and stared at it without blinking. With such a concentrated lightning, it was almost impossible to avoid. Suddenly, their vision darkened, the lightning disappeared, and the dazzling light turned into darkness. Their hearts sank. After a while, there was still no lightning, but the dark clouds slowly dispersed. "Is it over?" Xiaoshi mumbled. Xiaoqi flew up to the third floor. The bright sunlight shone down without any hindrance. The third floor was empty. Everything turned into dust. Only the blackened ground and walls were left. The roof was gone. The windows were gone. And so was Chu Li. Her body softened, and she held onto the wall to steady herself. There was nothing to look for. It was clear at a glance. Everything was there. Xiao Taiying and the others went up to the third floor and looked at the terrible state upstairs. Xiao Taiying sighed and looked at Mulin. Mulin's face was gloomy, and he scoffed. "Ashes and smoke, this is the price to pay for stealing the sky." Xiaoshi bit her red lips, not letting them tremble. The scenes from before were still flashing in front of her eyes. Chu Li was calm and at ease in the lightning, and his dazzling demeanor was imprinted in her mind and could not be erased. Xiaoqi suddenly bent down and picked up a black badge from the corner of the wall and gently wiped it, revealing its true appearance. It was a white jade waist tag, a rank 3 scribe's white jade waist tag. She felt a warm breath on her palm, as if Chu Li was still there. She clenched it so hard that her palm turned white. Sigh. Xiao Taiying sighed and patted Xiaoshi's shoulder. "Second younger sister, don't be too sad." Xiaoshi forced a smile, shook her head, and did not say anything. Xiao Taiying came over and patted Xiaoqi's shoulder. "Third younger sister." He knew how much Xiaoqi cared for Chu Li and how much she cared for him. Losing Chu Li made him feel heartache, let alone Xiaoqi. Zhao Qingshan looked at the messy scene and secretly shook his head and sighed. At his age, his heart was already numb, and he had lost the courage to sacrifice himself. Chu Li sacrificed himself to save the second lady. It was really touching, But unfortunately, God was merciless, and he was still destroyed. Big brother, you guys go ahead. I want to stay by myself for a while, Shao-Chi said slowly, holding Chu-Li's white jade waist tag tightly. Xiao Taiying nodded and sighed. Third younger sister, the dead can't come back to life. Don't be too sad. Mulin shook his head. When the second lady died, Chu-Li could sacrifice himself to save her, but the way Chu-Li died, no one can do anything about it. Under the lightning, ashes, and smoke completely disappeared from the world. Even the Eclipse Purloin's secret skill was useless. Hey, what's going on over there? Zhao Qingshan suddenly pointed to the sky and cried out. Everyone looked up. It was already sunny here, and the sun was shining brightly, but in the distance, dark clouds were surging. In just a short while, the sky had condensed into a dark area, and it was no different from the sky above the wind tower. That's the martial arts hall, right? Zhao Qingshan said. Chapter 174. The dense dark clouds condensed into a black umbrella in the sky. Thunder rumbled from afar and slowly approached. This situation was no different from the one at the wind tower. Everyone's eyes lit up. Xiao Taiying shook his head. We're too stupid. Chu-Li's light body technique is so powerful. If he can't block it, he will run away. Mulin scoffed. How bad can an enlightened master's light body technique be? No matter how good his light body technique is, can it be faster than lightning? We thought the lightning wasn't fast, and he could dodge it, but that's just an illusion. No matter how fast a master is, he can't be faster than lightning. It's fine if it doesn't move, but once it moves, it's unavoidable. But Chu-Li can dodge it. Xiao Sure was not convinced. She was not a martial artist, but she had personally experienced how fast Chu-Li was. In an instant, he could travel a few miles. It was beyond imagination. That's because he dodged it in advance. Mulin scoffed. If he really waited for the lightning to strike, he would have been struck by lightning before he could even think about it. Zhao Qingshan said, I think the lightning is coming very slowly. With Chu-Li's light body technique, he should be able to escape. He can escape for a while, but can he escape forever? Mulin pouted. No matter how good his light body technique is, can he not rest? How long can he last? Zhao Qingshan said, Then there's no need for Chu-Li to stay there and wait for the lightning to strike, right? This is the smartest method. Unfortunately, it's useless. Struggling is futile. He will die sooner or later. Mulin shook his head and sighed. The power of the lightning gets stronger the longer it accumulates. If he had escaped from the beginning, the lightning that greeted him would not be the same as the one just now. Do you think with his intelligence he won't know how to escape? Everyone nodded slowly. Did Chu-Li run to the martial arts hall? Zhao Qingshan muttered. Is there something in the martial arts hall that can help him block the lightning? That's impossible. Mulin shook his head. Let's go and take a look, Xiao said. Chu-Li sat cross-legged on the top floor of the martial arts hall. He still had lingering fears. He originally thought that with his sensing ability and his light body technique, he would be able to avoid the lightning. However, when the lightning struck, he realized that he had underestimated the power of heaven. It was really unstoppable. Earlier at the wind tower, his intuition told him that he should not escape, or else he would attract even stronger lightning. Heavenly lightning struck. He used his sense of danger to avoid the lightning bolts in advance, but in the end, the wind-viewing tower was like a pool of lightning. He had no choice but to flee and arrive at the martial arts exhibition hall. Even if he was not a physicist, he had learned the basics from his previous life. Metals could conduct electricity. The martial arts hall and the library were both tall buildings made of bronze. It was most suitable to be a lightning rod. He wanted to see if the heavenly lightning could break through the restraints of the laws of heaven and earth, bypass the bronze. and strike him. Crack! A bolt of lightning broke through the darkness and turned into the word Z appearing between heaven and earth. One end of it pierced through the dark clouds, and the other end pierced the roof of the bronze building. The bronze building lit up for a moment, and the lightning was extinguished. Then there was a loud rumble of thunder. The weather was strange. The people in the bronze tower had already run out and were looking up at the noisy martial arts field with the guards. What happened? What's going on? How can there be lightning on such a sunny day? While the people were discussing, Xiao Taiying and the others approached the bronze building. There were already a few lightning bolts striking the bronze building. The lightning bolts were like silver snakes, winding down the bronze building, falling from the sky, and disappearing on the ground. The bronze building was struck by lightning again and again. Electric sparks flickered on the building, and a suction force came over. It was as if they were being sucked in. Xiao Taiying was shocked and quickly shouted, "Everyone, take a few steps back." Everyone took a few steps back, and the strange suction force weakened. Crack! Crack! The lightning bolts struck down faster and faster. They were so dense that they did not even have time to breathe. The bronze building shone with a dark luster under the electric sparks. The original rust was peeled off layer by layer, and it shone with a black light. It was like a giant sword was stabbed into the ground, and the giant sword was surrounded by electric sparks. It was like a silver snake. Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi bit their lips and stared at the bronze building nervously. The dazzling electric sparks made their cheeks pale. The thunder roared, the lightning was dense, and the thunder was continuous. It was as if there was only the sound of thunder in the world. The lightning formed a sea of light and gradually engulfed the martial arts hall. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at the unimaginable scene in front of them. They did not know what was going on. Other than Xiao Taiying and Xiao Qi, everyone else was very curious. What caused this strange phenomenon? Could it be the birth of some rare treasure, or did the High Duke's public house break through the enlightened mastery's boundary? Everyone was in a daze. After some time, the thunder slowly weakened, and so did the lightning. People could see the bronze building again, and they realized that the bronze building had changed. It did not change in height, but it seemed to have become thinner. The thunder continued to weaken, and finally the lightning disappeared. The dark clouds in the sky slowly dispersed. Xiao Taiying and the others did not feel happy at all. The dark clouds dispersed, and the lightning disappeared. It meant that the result was out. This time, Chuli did not escape, but really, I'll go take a look. Xiao Qi glided into the martial arts hall and went up the stairs to the top floor. Chu Li was sitting cross-legged on the top floor, looking at her with a smile. Xiao Qi looked at him blankly. "Are you okay?" Chu Li smiled and nodded. "I was lucky to escape." Xiao Qi's eyes showed a smile, but her expression was still calm. "How did you avoid it?" Chu Li smiled. "The bronze building blocked the lightning for me, so it didn't hit me." "Go down." Xiao Qi then smiled sweetly. She had never smiled like this before. When she smiled like this, the world seemed to lose its color. Everything around them became dim, and Chu Li only had eyes for her bright smile. Everyone was worried. Xiao Qi glanced at him, especially second eldest sister. "Okay." Chu Li smiled. Xiao Qi turned and walked out, and Chu Li followed her down the stairs. Xiao Shi and Xiao Taiying had already reached the second floor. When she saw him, Xiao Shi's eyes widened, and her eyes were shining. Xiao Taiying was surprised and smiled. "Good. Chu Li, you're amazing." Chu Li smiled and closed fist saluted. Guo Mulin looked at Chu Li doubtfully. "Young Chu, you're really lucky. How did you avoid the lightning?" "This building protected me." Chu Li smiled. "The building protected you? Guomulin frowned. He was skeptical, and the scene just now was a little strange. It seemed like the lightning was really channeled into the ground by the bronze building, and it might really be effective. But if it was really that effective, it would be impossible for there to be no survivors. Second eldest sister has woken up, and Chu Li is safe. We should celebrate. Xiao Taiying laughed. Come, let's go to my place. Chu Li smiled. Second lady's body is better, right? Xiao sure pursed her lips and nodded, but she did not know what to say. Guomulin said, the eclipse purloin changed her physique, and now she's healthier than the average person. She won't fall sick, and the vitality sealing finger has also been removed. Thank God. Chu Li smiled. Everyone went down the stairs easily. When Chu Li was about to step out of the door, he suddenly stopped. Xiao Qi walked beside him and turned to look at him. What's wrong? Chu Li frowned. I'm not in a hurry to leave the building. He vaguely felt danger, as if once he stepped out of the bronze building, he would be killed. Xiao Qi frowned. What's wrong? Xiao sure looked over. Are you hurt? Chu Li shook his head. Master, I want to stay here for a few days. No problem. Xiao Taiying nodded and asked curiously, why? Chu Li smiled. Intuition. Chapter 175. Chu Li. Xiao Qi quickly stretched out her hand. Just as Chu Li was about to hit the ground, Xiao Qi reached out to grab him in time and slowly put him down. Everyone was shocked. The people in the distance cried out in alarm. They wanted to get closer, but Xiao Taiying stopped them after he shouted at them. Chu Li was lying on the ground, motionlessly, with his eyes closed. Mulin quickly grabbed his wrist and pressed on it. Xiao Qi pressed on his other wrist. Both of them frowned and looked at each other. Xiao Taiying quickly asked, Are you all right? Try using the spirit blessing pill. Mulin furrowed his brows. He took out a white jade porcelain from his pocket, poured out a spirit blessing pill, and pressed it into Chu Li's mouth. Chu Li's lips were tightly shut, but Guomulin's acupuncture point on his cheek did not work. Come here, pry open his mouth. Mulin said anxiously. Xiao Taiying shouted, Lin Quan! Lin Quan nodded and went to pry open Chu Li's mouth with Xiao Taiying. They were afraid of hurting Chu Li's lips, so they did not dare to use too much force and were very careful. Mulin said impatiently, Look at the situation now. Pry open his mouth. If his lips are broken, so be it. Xiao Qi said, Big brother, don't waste any more time. Chu Li has stopped beating. When Xiao Taiying heard this, he hurriedly exerted strength in his hands and forcefully pried open a slit. Mulin hurriedly pressed the spirit blessing pill into Chu Li's body. His inner energy was injected into Chu Li's body, but it immediately dissipated. Chu Li's body was completely lifeless. He was dead. Guomulin loosened his grip. His face was so gloomy that it looked like it was about to drip water. He threw the white jade bottle onto the ground, and it shattered into pieces. Xiao Qi channeled her inner energy, but Chu Li's body did not respond at all. This tiny bolt of lightning had killed Chu Li in an instant. He was completely dead. Third younger sister? Xiao sure looked at her serious face and quickly said, Chu Li, he... Xiao Qi shook her head. Dead. Third sister. Xiao sure said, So many lightning bolts couldn't do anything to him. How could he die? When the earth-shattering heavenly thunder struck earlier, Chu Li was unscathed. However, he was killed instantly after being struck by a small bolt of lightning. This was too unbelievable. Xiao Taiying checked Chu Li's breathing and heartbeat. He tried channeling again and shook his head at Xiao Shi. Second sister, Chu Li really went there. Impossible. Xiao Shi shouted. Xiao Taiying sighed. When he cast the purloin, he knew that this would happen. Don't be too sad. Big brother, There must be a way to save him. Sio sure turned her head and looked at Guamulin. Elder Gua, is there no secret skill that can save him? The dead can't come back to life. Mulin scoffed coldly. Chu Li has gone against the will of heaven. He will be punished by heaven. No one can save him. Sio Taiying said, Second sister, your body is weak. Don't be too sad. I just think it's unfair. Sio sure looked at Chu Li and sighed. His death was not worth it. As long as he thinks it's worth it, Shao Qi replied. Sio sure sighed. He was smart and capable. If he were alive, he would have contributed greatly to the public house. Yet, he chose to save a useless person like me, who said you're useless. Sio Taiying frowned. Second sister, don't talk nonsense. Chu Li died to save you. The only thing we can do now is to give him a proper burial. There's no point talking about anything else. Go and rest first. The surrounding people were all discussing it. They found it hard to believe. Chu Li rose like a comet. He was a legend in the public house. Now, he had fallen just like that. He could survive the earth-shattering thunder and lightning, but he died under the last tiny lightning bolt. Sio Taiying looked at the calm Sio Qi and sighed. Third sister, my condolences. He knew that the person who was the most upset was his third sister. The calmer she appeared, the more emotional she was. She used her heart technique to suppress it. Sio Qi said calmly, I want to send him off personally. Go. Sio Taiying nodded. Sio Qi bent down and lifted Chu Li up. They slowly walked out. The people automatically made way for them and watched them quietly. They all sighed in their hearts. Sio Qi jumped onto a small boat. Soon, they arrived at the Jade Guardian Island and went straight to the Gloriesville courtyard. Schwelling opened the door and saw the scene. She widened her eyes and shouted, Master! Sio Qi entered the courtyard without saying a word and put Chu Li under the Gloriesville tree. There was still a glimmer of hope in her heart. The Gloriesville tree was strange. Chu Li especially liked to stay under it. Maybe the Gloriesville tree could save his life. Master, Schwelling's face was pale and her voice was trembling. Sio Qi looked up at him. He's dead. How? Schwelling was in disbelief. Master's light body technique is so powerful. No matter how good his light body technique is, he can't stop God. Sio Qi shook her head and said, Don't cry. Go and get a cushion. Yes. Schwelling clenched her teeth to stop herself from crying. She went into the house and got a few cushions. She laid them under the Gloriesville tree and moved Chu Li onto the cushion. She looked at his calm face in a daze. Sorrow came from her heart and tears streamed down her face. Sio Qi sat beside Chu Li without saying a word. Scenes of the past flashed through her mind. She channeled to suppress her surging emotions. After a while, Suru suddenly opened the door and came in. My lady, Chu Li? Sio Qi did not say a word. She sat still like a jade statue. Suru looked at Schwelling, who was crying, and lowered her head. She went forward to touch Chu Li's wrist. My lady, don't talk. Be quiet. Suru sighed and stood aside. She only stared at Chu Li, hoping that he would suddenly open his eyes and smile at her. Time passed slowly. The sun was setting and the twilight was rising. The lanterns were lit. The air in the Gloriesville courtyard seemed to have frozen. The three women did not move. A bright moon hung in the night sky. The moonlight fell on them like water. The moonlight gradually shifted, and then the first rays of dawn appeared. The sun rose, and the night passed without them noticing. Dew dripped onto their clothes. Suru wiped away the dew on her face and suppressed her sorrow. She said, My lady, go back and rest. The dead can't come back to life. After one night, she had accepted the reality. Chu Li had indeed left, but she had to continue living her life. She could not let sadness consume her. She had to pull herself together and not fall. She slowly asked, "My lady who killed Chu-Li?" Xio-Chi turned her head and looked at her. She said, "No enemies." "How can there be no enemies?" Suru frowned. "Did he die of illness?" Xio-Chi lazily waved her hand. "You'll know in the future." She could not lift her body. Even if she used the heart technique to suppress her thoughts, she could not get rid of the loneliness. She did not want to talk, she did not want to move, and she was too lazy to talk. She took out a silk handkerchief and squatted down to wipe Chu-Li's face. She suddenly looked up and widened her eyes. "My lady, master is still warm." Xio-Chi quickly went forward to check. Chu-Li's face was as warm as a normal person's. Her eyes suddenly brightened. She reached out and touched Chu-Li's wrist. She pressed on his chest and nose. She frowned again. There was still no heartbeat, no breath, but he was not really dead. Otherwise, he would have stiffened. "Master is not dead, right?" Xue stared at Xio-Chi, hopefully. Xio-Chi slowly said, "He's not dead." Xue let out a long sigh of relief. She went limp and laid on Chu-Li's body. Xio-Chi channeled her energy into Chu-Li's body, but there was still no reaction. There was no sign of life. However, his body did not stiffen. This gave her a glimmer of hope. It was possible that Chu-Li was not really dead. He was just in a state that she did not understand. Suru's eyes lit up. "My lady, when will he wake up?" "I don't know." Xio-Chi shook her head. "Don't touch him. Let him stay here." "Yes." Xue quickly nodded. Xio-Chi said, "He has to wake up on his own." She suddenly had a strong feeling that Chu-Li could come back to life. Thinking of this, she jumped up. "Take care of Chu-Li." When she returned to the stargazing tower, she saw Xio-Tying waiting for her on the first floor. "Third sister." Xio-Tying raised his hand. "Let's discuss how to bury Chu-Li. He's not dead." Xio-Chi said. Xio-Tying was stunned. He then shook his head and sighed. He looked at Xio-Chi with pity. Chapter 176. Chu-Li is not dead. Shao-Chi said. Xio-Tying sighed and said helplessly, "Sister, the dead can't come back to life. Don't be too sad." Shao-Chi said impatiently, "Big brother, I'm very conscious." Xio-Tying saw that she was indeed conscious and asked doubtfully, "He's really not dead?" "I don't know." Shao-Chi shook her head and said, "He's dead, but his body is still warm." "Does that mean there's still a glimmer of hope?" Xio-Tying was excited. Shao-Chi said, "I don't think he's dead." Xio-Tying frowned and said, "Then we have to treat him quickly. Does Elder Gua have a way?" "If Elder Gua has a way, he won't just stand by and do nothing." Shao-Chi shook her head and said, "In his current situation, there's no way to treat him. He can only rely on himself. His body was like rotten wood, and medicine was ineffective. However, there was still a trace of warmth, which meant that his soul had not dissipated, and there was still a possibility of him waking up. He must be going through a bitter struggle. This was something that outsiders could not help him with. He could only rely on himself." Xio-Tying got up and paced anxiously. "There must be a way." Shao-Chi said, "I'll go ask Grandmother Sunday. She's well educated." "Okay, go quickly." Xio-Tying quickly said. His face was full of excitement. Only when he was about to lose Chu-Li did he realize how important Chu-Li was. He was irreplaceable. If he really lost him, the public house would lose a pillar. Chu-Li was in a daze. Sometimes he was awake, and sometimes he was in a daze. Suddenly, he arrived at a vast place. Everything around him was gray and misty. He could not see where he was or what was around him. He could only see a long path under his feet that led to the depths of the fog. After he gradually woke up, he walked along the path in the thick fog. He did not know how long he had walked, but the fog was still thick, and there was no change from before. He felt that something was wrong and stopped to think about the situation in front of him. The moment he fell, he knew what had happened. He was struck by lightning and instantly fainted. He thought that he would not be spared, but he did not die. Maybe his strong spirit helped him escape, or some strange power protected him. He squatted down and touched the path. The path gave him a very strange feeling. It felt like iron and wood. It was definitely not mud. Could it be that he was walking on a wooden path? He then shook his head and no longer paid attention to this. He was thinking about how to break through the thick fog and wake up as soon as possible. If he didn't wake up soon, they might really think that he was dead and bury him. He sat down cross-legged and visualized the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait in his mind. The white tiger appeared clearly, but there was not a single trace of energy in his surroundings. It was as if he had been cut off from the world by the thick fog, or perhaps it was because he was in a strange state. Hence, he switched to the life and death scripture. The tree of life and death appeared. He suddenly felt something and opened his eyes. A gigantic tree appeared 10 steps away from him. He looked carefully and realized that the tree was huge. It was unknown how thick it was, but it completely blocked his line of sight. It was so tall that it seemed to reach the sky. He couldn't see the end of it. In front of this tree, he was like an ant in front of it. He stepped forward and touched it. A strange feeling welled up in his heart. His flesh and blood were connected, as if his left hand was touching his right hand. This tree was the withering glory tree. Zhang Xian thought. The thick fog in the surroundings surged and rushed toward the tree of life and death, making the tree of life and death even clearer and more real. The thick fog seemed to be endless. As the tree of life and death materialized, the connection between him and the tree of life and death became clearer and clearer. He was the tree, and the tree was him. Boom. Everything in front of him exploded. His mind went blank. A clear sound rang in his ears. An inexplicable feeling rose in his chest. He couldn't help but open his mouth and let out a long howl that echoed throughout the entire Jade Guardian Island. Shui was kneeling on the ground. Her eyes were red and swollen. She stared blankly at him as he opened his eyes and sat up. "Young Master?" Shui hesitantly called out. She was afraid that she was hallucinating and that her voice would wake him up from this beautiful dream. Chuli looked around and smiled. "How long has it been?" "A day." Shui hesitantly reached out her hand to touch his face. Chuli patted her hand and smiled. "You're not dreaming. I'm not dead. You're really not dead." Shui's eyes suddenly lit up. "I won't die so easily." Chuli smiled. Shui wiped away her tears. "Master, you're too scary." Chuli smiled. "Don't pee like a cat. Go and tell Lady Xiao." "Yes." Shui quickly got up. When she opened the courtyard door, she turned around to look again, afraid that it was still a dream. Chuli smiled and waved his hand. He watched her leave. He sat cross-legged and closed his eyes slightly to feel his body. A strange feeling arose. Spiritual energy from all directions surged into his body. This extremely pure spiritual energy was formed by the mixture of two forces. One force was for prosperity, and the other was for withering. Just like how atoms were made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons, the spiritual energy from the plants that he thought was extremely pure was not a single entity. The combination of prosperity and withering formed spiritual energy. Chu Li had a sudden realization. He divided the spiritual energy into two, separating the withering energy and the prosperity energy. He injected each of them into the 2 spirit herbs beside him. The 2 spirit herbs instantly changed. One of them suddenly grew a section full of vitality, while the other began to weaken. It was about to fall sick. Chu suddenly smiled. The scripture of life and death had reached the 2nd level. He activated the omniscient mirror. Everything within a 5-mile radius appeared clearly in his mind. The spiritual energy from the plants within a 1-mile radius surged over. The enormous spiritual energy filled his body in the blink of an eye. His cultivation level increased a little. Unfortunately, he was still in the innate stage. He could not understand the meaning and could not step into the Grandmaster's boundary. A white shadow flashed, and Shao-Chi appeared in front of him. Her bright eyes stared at him. Chu opened his eyes and smiled. "My lady, are you really okay?" Shao-Chi hurriedly asked. Chu smiled and nodded. "I'm really lucky." Shao-Chi fiercely stared at him. "It's not that you're lucky. You might not be so lucky next time. Are you feeling unwell?" "I'm fine." Chu smiled. Shao-Chi let out a long sigh and relaxed. She suddenly felt tired. She rushed to Su Ru and Xue Ling, who just floated in. "Get something to eat." Xue Ling hurriedly agreed. She looked at Chu again and hurriedly went into the kitchen. Su Ru approached him and squeezed his shoulder. "He's really alive." "Chu, you're too much." Chu smiled. "I shouldn't have troubled my lady. I'm not worried." Shao-Chi scoffed. Su Ru pursed her lips and smiled. "I thought you were going to die." "Oh, right. Do you really like the second lady that much that you're willing to sacrifice yourself to save her?" Chu smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I'm just trying my best. I don't have any improper thoughts about the second lady. That's enough." Su Ru smiled. "Don't say one thing but mean another. Everyone knows." Chu smiled. "It's really a misunderstanding. Second elder sister is the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty. It's natural for her to like her." Shao-Chi lightly said. Chu said, "My lady, please don't say that. Don't ruin the second lady's reputation." Shao-Chi lightly scoffed. "Second elder sister's reputation." Chu helplessly shook his head. The more he tried to explain, the more he tried to cover up. "My lady, I'll go and tell the news to Master Shao and the second lady." Su Ru said. Shao-Chi waved her hand. Su Ru gave Chu a side eye. "Don't work so hard next time." "Of course." Chu smiled. Su Ru pouted. He always said that. Next time, she would do what she had to do. Chapter 177. Chu closed fist saluted and smiled. Xiao Taiying, Ling Quan, Xiao Shi, and Mulan stepped into the hall and looked at Chu from head to toe. Xiao Taiying grabbed his arm and laughed. "Good, you're alive." "Good, good." "Master Xiao, I'm lucky." Chu smiled. "You survived the lightning. You're really lucky." Xiao Taiying exclaimed. Xiao Shi looked at him with her watery eyes and did not say a word. Mulan grabbed his wrist and felt it. He nodded in satisfaction. "Good boy, you're really lucky." Chu smiled. "Thank you for your concern. Elder Mulan, you little brat, I'm really unlucky to have met you." Mulan scoffed. "All right, Chu, you can go back and rest." Xiao-Chi said, "Rest for a few days." "Yes." Chu nodded and closed fist saluted. Xiao Shi watched him leave without blinking. Chu only looked at her once, smiled, and nodded. He then left and did not look at her again. "This little brat, since he's fine, I'll go back too." Mulan shook his head. "Second lady, you should have a good rest too. After all, you've just recovered from a serious illness. You can't be careless." "Okay." Xiao Shi answered absent-mindedly. Only the 3 siblings were left in the building. Lin Quan also left the building. Thank God, Chuli is a good man. Co Tying laughed. Looks like the House of High Duke's luck is coming. Co Chi nodded. Big brother, we have to thank Chuli? Of course. Co Tying smiled. We can't treat him badly. Or else, not only will I feel bad, the house will not agree to it. Second sister, how do you think we should reward Chuli? Me? Co sure shook her head. I don't know about this. Co Chi remained silent. Co Tying laughed. Second sister, Chuli is infatuated with you. Why don't you marry him? Big brother, what are you talking about? Co Sure glared at him. Co Tying looked at Co Sure's blushing face and laughed. What's there to be embarrassed about with Big brother? It's easy to get a priceless treasure, but it's hard to get a lover. Let Chuli be my brother-in-law. I know him well. Big brother, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Sure said angrily. It's impossible between him and me. Chuli isn't good enough for you. Co Sure said. Apart from his low birth, he was top-notch in terms of talent and martial arts. What was even rarer was that he's willing to die for you. Where else can you find such a good man? Chuli and I are not compatible. Co Sure shook her head. He likes third younger sister more. Co Tying looked at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi snapped. Why are you dragging me into this? Xiao Sure said. I know why he saved me. It's because of third younger sister. Xiao Qi sighed. Second eldest sister. You don't like Chuli? 2. Tying to Ling, to Xiao Tying and Xiao. Co Tying laughed and said, Second sister, that engagement of yours doesn't count at all. See, Xiao to Li, Tito to Tito. It's just a verbal agreement. It's not an official engagement. My body has always been weak. They won't. Now that I'm healthy, it's not necessarily the case. Co Sure said. Tying shook his head. If you don't want to, then don't spread the news. Let everyone think that you've always been weak. The key is your opinion. Don't let yourself suffer. I think it's good to marry into the imperial residence. Co Sure said. It's a good home. Co Tying frowned. Co said, Second sister, the House of High Dukes doesn't need a marriage to get out of trouble. Co Tying's face darkened. That's right. Co Sure said, I heard that Princeton is educated and polite. He's a good match for you. But Princeton is already 40. He already has a concubine. Co Tying said, It's better for you to marry Chuli. No matter how talented he is, no one can compare to him when it comes to love. He won't let you suffer. Prince and hasn't chosen a concubine yet. He's fulfilling the marriage agreement. Co Sure said. Co Tying's face darkened. Co's face darkened too. This marriage agreement was their scar. No one wanted to open it. It hurt. Big brother, father isn't here. Can he go back on his words? Co Sure said. If I really marry Chuli and Princeton investigates, who can stop him? Co Tying gripped the armrest of his armchair tightly. He didn't say a word. Prince and was the third son of the emperor. He was a descendant of the imperial family. The reason why he didn't choose a concubine was because of the marriage agreement. His father and the emperor made the marriage agreement when they were drunk. He promised his second sister to be Prince N's concubine. At that time, his second sister wasn't even born yet. Now, his father was in isolated cultivation. His second sister was bound by this marriage agreement. After so many years, the imperial residence of King and had never mentioned about the engagement. They did not marry Co Sure because Co Sure's body was weak. She would not be able to adapt to the imperial residence. If something were to happen, the two families would definitely fall out and fight. Now that Co Sure's body had recovered, the imperial residence of Prince and would definitely fulfill the marriage agreement. After all, Seoshur was the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty. The House of High Dukes and the imperial family worked together, but they also had conflicts. They looked like one, but they were fighting in the dark. If Seoshur were to marry into the imperial residence, even if she was the concubine, she wouldn't have a good life. It was no different from jumping into a fire pit. Seo Taiying had deep feelings for his sister. He couldn't bear to let her marry into the imperial residence. His opinion of his father was also because of the marriage agreement. Seo Chi sighed. Then we'll drag it out. Second sister, don't think that marrying Prince and will help the House of High Dukes. That's right, Seo Taiying quickly said. Second sister, even if I marry the princess, it won't help the house at all. Princeton has a good reputation, Seoshur said softly. You don't have to worry. Second sister. Seo Taiying's face darkened. Are you not going to listen to your big brother? Big brother. Seoshur sighed. Paper can't cover fire. Princeton will find out eventually. We'll drag it out for as long as we can. Seo Taiying scoffed. If father can enter the enlightened mastery's boundary, the marriage agreement will naturally be cancelled. Seoshur shook her head. It was not that easy to break through the enlightened mastery's boundary. She had no confidence at all. Seo Taiying's interest waned. He sighed. Third sister, how are we going to reward Chu Li? Raise him to rank 2. Seo Chi asked. Seo Taiying pondered for a moment. He nodded. Logically speaking, his contributions are not enough to raise him to rank 2. But this time, he took the initiative to sacrifice himself to save third sister. It's rare. We can make an exception and raise him to rank 2. Seo Chi nodded. Yes. Seo Taiying turned his head and looked at Seoshur. Let Chu Li be the chief of Symphony Island. No need. Seoshur quickly waved her hand. Chu Li is third sister's favorite general. Seo Taiying looked at Seo Chi. Third sister? Seo Chi sighed. Forget it. Let Chu Li visit her more often. She understood her big brother's intention. He wanted Chu Li to hook second sister's heart. He wanted to prevent her from acting recklessly and jumping into the fire pit of the imperial residence of King An. He wanted second sister to marry Chu Li by any means possible. But what would that do to Chu Li? Seoshur rolled her eyes at them. If Chu Li comes, I'll leave. Seo Taiying sighed. Second sister, don't act recklessly. If you really marry into the imperial residence of King An, I won't be able to face mother even if I die. Seoshur heard him mention mother and did not say anything else. Seo Chi could see through Seoshur's thoughts. She had a good impression of Chu Li, but it was only a good impression. She had no desire for a romantic relationship. She wanted to change the situation of the public house and help the public house. Chapter 178. After Chu Li returned to the courtyard, he began to test the power of the second level of the scripture of life and death. He used his spirit to activate a small pine tree in the forest. After an hour, the small pine tree grew a ring and grew bigger. Chu Li was surprised. He did not expect the spirit to be so powerful. In other words, an hour was equivalent to a year. 20 hours was equivalent to 10 years. 100 hours was equivalent to 100 years. With such power to activate rare spirit herbs, the harvest would be huge. It was indeed the scripture of life and death. The efficacy of spirit herbs was often related to age. The longer it grew, the stronger the efficacy. For the same spirit herb, 10 years and 100 years were the difference between heaven and earth. He decided to keep this a secret and not let others know. After all, it involved too many benefits, and it was inevitable that there would be a disturbance. The most important thing at the moment was to learn medicine and alchemy. Once he obtained powerful spiritual herbs, he could refine them into precious pills and use them without anyone noticing. Just the thought of it was too wonderful for words, and he found it hard to suppress his excitement. At noon, Xue Ling made more than 10 dishes. The stone table in the pagoda was full. Even if it looked delicious, it was impossible for the two of them to finish it. Chu Li knew that she was happy, so he did not spoil the mood. Instead, he praised her and suggested to drink 2 glasses of wine to help her calm down. After lunch, Xiao Qi in a white shirt pushed the door open. Behind her was the beautiful Suru in a fluttering apricot gown. As soon as they entered the pagoda, Suru pursed her lips and smiled. "Chu Li, congratulations, rank 2 scribe." Chu Li looked at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi's white shirt was flawless. Her face was like white jade. She sat elegantly in front of him and nodded. "This time you saved second eldest sister. You are promoted to rank 2. Chu Li smiled. "Isn't it too easy to promote?" To be promoted from rank 3 to rank 2, he must have done something extraordinary. Although he saved Xiao Shi's life, he did not have the qualifications to be a rank 2. Xiao Qi said, "This time you sacrificed yourself to save her. You can make an exception and promote. Suru, go with Xue Ling to make some snacks." "Yes." Suru pulled Xue Ling away from the pagoda. Chu Li looked at Xiao Qi doubtfully. Xiao Qi took out a piece of paper from her sleeve and passed it to Chu Li. He passed it to Chu Li. "This is the spy in the Ren public house. Take a look." Chu Li frowned. "Lady wants to join the faction immediately." Xiao Qi replied, "Within a month." In such a hurry? Chu Li took the white paper, glanced at it, and imprinted it into his mind. Xiao Qi shook her head. "It's a rare opportunity." Chu Li nodded in understanding. If she wanted to enter the snow lunar pavilion without arousing suspicion, she would need a unique opportunity. He couldn't enter the sect step by step, and had to start as an inner disciple. That would waste too much time. Chu Li shook it lightly, and the white paper turned into powder. A gust of wind blew over, rustling as it floated away. Xiao Qi said, "Regarding the spy, you'll be in charge of it from now on. Just report directly to Big Brother, and you'll have the right to act at your own discretion." "I'll do my best," Chu Li said. Xiao Qi sighed. Second eldest sister is engaged to King, and she was a little worried about Chu Li's reaction. If he was really infatuated with her second sister and had deep feelings for her, he might become angry when he found out about this news. It was too easy to turn love into hate. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and nodded lightly. He had the omniscient mirror. When he met with Xiao Taiying earlier, he had already seen through Xiao Shi's thoughts. Xiao Shi wanted to marry into the imperial residence of King and become princess, and this would give the High Duke's public house a chance to breathe and no longer be suppressed by the imperial family. The Ren public house would also not dare to attack so unscrupulously. Chu Li was non-committal about her thoughts. Xiao Shi and Xiao Qi's personalities were completely different. Maybe it was because she was always troubled by illness. She was more indifferent to life and herself. She knew that if she was not born in the High Duke's public house, she might not live past 10 years old. Big brother, third younger sister, and fourth younger brother spent a lot of effort to prolong her life. The longevity grass was not easy to find. The High Duke's public house spent a lot of manpower and resources. After her body recovered, she did not think about enjoying life and youth, but the fate of the High Duke's public house. She wanted to use her own body to help the High Duke's public house. Xiao Qi frowned and shook her head. Second eldest sister is going to marry into the imperial residence of King, and she knew second eldest sister's personality. She would do what she said. Big brother would not be able to change her mind. In the end, he would still get what he wanted. Chu Li said, "Second lady will have to marry eventually. Marrying king and is not bad." He felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. He knew a little about the princes of the imperial family. King had a good reputation and was highly respected. He was talented in poetry and was a scholar. He was in charge of revising a few books. It was said that he was gentle and had a good temper. Although he was already 40 years old, he was not considered old. He was considered to be in the prime of his life. Moreover, when he was older, he would take care of others. They could be considered a good match. Chu Li liked Xiaoshi's beauty very much. He only admired her. He loved her because he loved her. He had the life and death scripture and was driven by utilitarianism. That was why he did what others thought was a sacrifice to save others. If he did not have the life and death scripture, he would not have done this. Although Xiaoshi was slightly more beautiful, the one he liked was Xiaoqi. However, Xiaoshi was a beauty, the first beauty of the great Ji. She was going to marry someone else. He still felt a little melancholy and uncomfortable. This was a man's nature. Xiaoqi looked at his face quietly. She wanted to see through his subtle expressions. "You and second eldest sister," Chu Li said, "I don't have any improper thoughts about second lady." "Really?" Xiaoqi stared at his eyes. Chu Li smiled. "Second lady is too arrogant. Even if I have intentions, it's useless." Xiaoqi said lightly, "It seems that you do have intentions." Chu Li spread his hands and smiled. "It's not bad for second lady to marry prince, and the High Duke's public house and the imperial family are entangled. It's hard to explain." Xiaoqi shook her head. "The other public houses will not be as peaceful as ours. It's hard to avoid open and secret fights. With the side concubine around, she won't be happy." Chu Li said, "The key is still to see what second lady thinks. Second eldest sister is stubborn. She will marry in the end. I'm really worried." Xiaoqi frowned and sighed. Chu Li smiled and quietly looked at her cold face. Xiaoqi's eyes flashed. "Chu Li, if second eldest sister really enters the imperial residence of prince, and you should follow her." Chu Li was stunned. He then laughed. "My lady, I'm a man." "It's okay," Xiaoqi said. "The imperial residence is not the imperial palace. The scribe can follow her into the imperial residence. I can only be at ease if you are by second eldest sister's side." "Then my lady, you—" Chu Li frowned. Xiaoqi said, "I will stay in Snow Lunar Pavilion for a few years. Even if you are in the imperial residence, it will be difficult for us to meet." Chu Li did not say anything. Xiaoqi said, "If it really doesn't work, you should go with second eldest sister first. When she has a stable footing, you can come back. She's alone. She doesn't have any scheming skills. She will be bullied the moment she enters the imperial residence. I'm really worried." Chu Li frowned and did not say anything. He was a little unwilling. Xiaoqi said lightly, "Do you want me to beg you?" "Sigh." Chu Li shook his head and sighed. "All right. Since my lady has ordered, I can only do it." Xiaoqi smiled. It was like the first snow on a sunny day. The whole pagoda suddenly brightened up. Chu Li reluctantly looked away and did not let himself lose his composure. "When will second lady marry into the imperial residence of prince, and she has made up her mind. Big brother can't stop her. I think the imperial residence of prince, and will soon receive the news that she has recovered." Xiaoqi said, "It won't be long before they come to fetch her. I just don't know if second lady will agree. I will convince second eldest sister." "My lady, don't you need help on your side?" Chu Li asked. "It's not easy to enter Snow Lunar Pavilion. All the official disciples of Snow Lunar Pavilion are women. Shao-Chi said, "You can't help. Su-Ru will go with me. If something really happens, she will look for you. If the two of you are together, it's okay. No one will recognize you." Chapter 179. For the next few days, Chu Li stayed in the Glories Will courtyard and focused on catalyzing the Glories Will tree. Every time the Glories Will tree grew a ring, its power grew stronger, and it absorbed more spiritual energy from heaven and earth. The air in the courtyard became fresher and more abundant. The spirit herbs grew faster, and it became more comfortable to stay in the courtyard. In the morning, Chu Li finished cultivating, and Xue had already served breakfast. The two of them sat in the pagoda and ate together. There were 4 dishes and 1 soup. It was delicious. "Master, it's strange. I've been cultivating very quickly these 2 days." Xue was dressed in white, and her temperament was getting colder and colder. It was more like Shao-Chi's temperament, but less clear and more cold. Chu Li casually took a sip of wine. "Is it because I suddenly became enlightened?" Xue tilted her head and looked at him. "Is it because I have a deeper understanding of the Crescent Cryptic?" Chu Li smiled. Xue was annoyed. "Why exactly? What do you think?" "I don't know." Xue shook her head. "It feels very good. It's like my 5 senses are sharper, the air is fresher, and my inner energy is purer. Everything is right, so I'm advancing faster." Chu Li smiled. "It's because of the Glories Will tree." "The Glories Will tree." Xue turned to look at the taller Glories Will tree. "Because of it," Chu Li said, "this is the mystery of the Glories Will tree." "Doesn't that mean that staying beside the Glories Will tree will advance faster than others?" The Glories Will tree is amazing. So shut your mouth and eat properly. Is it the same for the stargazing tower? It's not as effective, but it's still improved. Do we get the most out of all of them? Xue beamed like a blossoming flower. Lady Zhao's cultivation has reached its peak. She doesn't need the support of the Glories Will tree. Chu Li said. Shao-Chi's Grandmaster's cultivation had been perfected. No matter how much she improved, it would be limited. It was like a cup that was filled with water and could not be filled anymore. He was already close to perfecting it. This time, the scripture of life and death had advanced to the 2nd level, and his physique was stronger. It was like changing a small cup into a big cup. Moreover, he had the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait, which was also continuously improving his physique. The cup was getting bigger and bigger, but it was not yet complete. Xue smiled. "I have to catch up as soon as possible. Your ambition is commendable. Work hard." Chu Li nodded and drank another glass of wine. "Master, I heard from Brother Jiang that there was a big case in Desolate Town." Xue held the jade pot in her hand and filled his white jade cup. "The governor was assassinated." Chu Li looked up at her. Xue put down the jade pot. "Brother Jiang accepted a mission to investigate. We didn't manage to find any clues. All we know is that it was done by a grandmaster. He did it cleanly and killed all 6 protectors in one strike." Grandmasters? Chu Li frowned. Grandmasters were the top masters in the world. If they were placed in the martial arts world, they would be the leaders of a sect or faction. If they were placed in the imperial court, they would be the high official of the imperial house or the high official of the High Duke's public house. Killing people was as easy as drinking water for such a peerless expert. Xue pursed her lips tightly. Her face was solemn and filled with anger. She hated this kind of person the most. It reminded her of her father's death. Chu Li asked, "How did the public house arrange it?" "Brother Jiang and the others have already transported the man to the public house. They want the high officials to personally examine his wounds." Xue furrowed her brows. "Master, do you want to go and take a look?" Chu Li nodded. It's good to take a look. Xue Ling smiled. We must not let the murderer go. Chu Li nodded. Killing an official of the imperial court was a death sentence. If the murderer could not be brought to justice, then they would lose their deterrence to the martial arts world. If the public house could not break through, the imperial house would send people over. In short, the murderer must be caught. Chu Li had just finished his breakfast when Shao Qi and Su Ru came over. Xue Ling's cooking time was fixed. They could come over on time. Shao Qi's clothes were as white as snow. Her eyes were cold. Have you heard about the case? Chu Li said, the desolate town governor was assassinated. Let's go. Follow me to take a look. Shao Qi said, we have to find the guy. What kind of grandmaster would do this? Chu Li sighed. Is it because they are invincible or because they have a deep hatred? It's puzzling. The people of the martial arts world are hot-blooded and impulsive. Shao Qi said, when they are hot-headed, they can do anything. So we have to have enough deterrence to make them worry. The murderer must be found. The two of them left the courtyard. Su Ru and Xue Ling followed behind. Did you manage to convince the second lady? Chu Li asked casually. The four of them passed through the woods and stepped onto the boat. The boat floated like a leaf on the lake. The clear lake surface was sparkling. The lake breeze blew gently, like a caress. Chu Li and Shao Qi stood at the bow of the boat. Su Ru and Xue Ling stood at the other end. No, Shao Qi said lightly, but it will eventually work. Big Brother also agreed to let you accompany her. Master Shao agreed to let the second Lady Mary into the imperial residence of King An. What can I do if I don't agree? Shao Qi scoffed. Second eldest sister has already sent someone to the imperial residence of King, and in private. I think the people from the imperial residence of King An will come soon. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Shao Qi said, no one can change second eldest sister's mind. She has been like this since young. I'm used to it. Chu Li frowned. What other arrangements does Master Shao have? Big Brother knows that you want to go. He is relieved. He will accompany more maids and a few protectors. Shao Qi said lightly. Actually, protectors are useless. Chu Li said, Grandmaster protectors? Impossible. Shao Qi said, second eldest sister will not agree. Moreover, the protectors of the imperial residence are strong enough. No matter how they fight, it will not endanger their lives. With the support of the High Duke's public house, the battle in the harem will not endanger anyone's life. Otherwise, the High Duke's public house will not let it go. The Grandmaster protectors are the backbone of the imperial residence. Instead of putting them in the imperial residence, it is better to put them in the High Duke's public house. Now that the High Duke's public house is weak, the Grandmaster protectors are stretched thin. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. If you enter the imperial residence, you must be careful. Shao Qi said, you can't endanger anyone's life. Chu Li said, what if I can't persuade second lady? I have a way. You don't have to worry. Shao Qi glanced at him. I will fulfill your wish. Chu Li laughed. My lady, I don't want to go. Shao Qi looked into the distance and did not say anything else. Chu Li shook his head, helplessly. The boat stopped at the martial arts hall. When they stepped onto the martial arts field, everyone looked at them. They would never forget that heaven-shaking, earth-shattering scene of heavenly lightning. They had seen Chu Li resist the lightning with their own eyes. He was struck by a small lightning and fell. They did not expect him to be full of vigor in such a short time. He was indeed a legend. Shao Qi did not walk through the path that the protectors had opened. She walked around the martial arts field and arrived at a palace next to the martial arts hall. The atmosphere in the hall was solemn. There were 7 corpses on the ground. for elders were flipping them over and over. Sometimes they frowned, and sometimes they were discussing with the people next to them. Co Tying stood at the side with his hands behind his back. His face was solemn. Lin Quan stood behind him. When he saw the four of them, Co Tying nodded. Chu Li, have you recovered? Chu Li Fist saluted. You guys should take a look too. This guy used a few types of martial arts. Co Tying said. I can't figure out what he used. Xiao Qi nodded and squatted next to one of the corpses. She looked at the wound. It was a black fist print on the chest. Chu Li did not move. He stood there and scanned the 7 corpses. He could clearly see their injuries. He simulated the killer's moves in his mind. Chapter 180. Co Chi did not avoid the corpses. She carefully looked at all the wounds and even pressed them. She frowned and did not say a word. Chu Li analyzed the situation of the 7 people when they died in his mind. He carefully compared each injury, the changes in their muscles, and the depth of their inner energy. Fist prints, palm prints, fingerprints. 7 people killed by 7 different martial arts. At first glance, it seemed like 7 people did it. However, this could not be hidden from the eyes of a master. He could tell from the style that it was the same person. Co Tying said, Elder Gue, can you see anything? A tall and strong old man with white eyebrows and a face like a baby raised his head and sighed, This guy's inner energy is very strange. His martial arts are diverse, but he has the essence of it. He is a genius in martial arts. He is proficient in many fist and palm techniques. Co Tying thought for a while and shook his head. There are many people like this in the martial arts world. Elder Gue continued, his inner energy belongs to the feminine category. Although he imitated it to be strong and masculine, there is a feminine element in his bones. Feminine. Co Tying frowned. There are many grandmasters in the world who have feminine inner energy. There are also many who are proficient in several martial arts. There is no way to determine who the murderer is with these clues. Elder Gue shook his head. This is all I can see. They attacked too quickly and did not use their full strength. There are not many clues left. Co Tying turned to Co Chi. Third younger sister, did you find anything unexpected? Co Chi clapped her hands and stood up. She took out a silk handkerchief to wipe her hands. Only Elder Gue and the others. This murderer is very cunning. Unfortunately, the protectors are too weak. They did not force him to show his true abilities. Co Tying sighed. That's troublesome. He turned to Chu Li, who had been silent all this while, and smiled. Chu Li, what do you think? Chu Li said, There are 2 murderers. Co Tying was startled and quickly asked, 2 people? Chu Li slowly nodded. Yes, there are 2 people. They cultivated the same heart technique, and their cultivation level is similar. How is that possible? Elder Gue frowned and looked at Chu Li. Chief Chu, although they used different martial arts, they used the same inner energy. It should be the same person. Chu Li said, Elder Gue, these 2 people are probably twin brothers. Their inner energy is the same, and their cultivation level is similar as well, but there is a slight difference. There should be a pair of twin brothers among the grandmasters, right? Chu Li, are you talking about Wang Jingzhong and Wang Zishu? Xiao Qi muttered. The Wang brothers cultivate the spring water tactic. Co Tying's eyes lit up. That's right. As far as I know, the Wang brothers are also skilled in martial arts. Elder Gue frowned and said, Chief Chu, how can you tell there are 2 people? Chu Li pointed at the first corpse, the third, and the fourth. This was killed by one person while the other 4 were killed by another person. Elder Gue, take a closer look and you'll be able to see the differences. Elder Gue was doubtful. Once again, he immersed himself in his examination. The other 3 elders also immersed themselves in the examination. Finally, they stood up and looked at Chu Li in confusion. "How was it, Elder Gui? Was Chu Li right?" Xiao Taiying asked. Elder Gui stared at Chu Li and smiled bitterly. "I am ashamed." Just as Chief Chu Li said, "There are 2 people. I wonder how Chief Chu could tell?" Since Chu Li entered the house, he did not bend down at all. He just casually glanced around. To be able to see the flaws that were difficult to be seen by the naked eye, it was somewhat unacceptable for them, who had always been proud. "It's just a feeling." Chu Li shook his head and said, "It's not based on their wounds. It's the breath on their bodies. Are the Wong brothers crazy? How could they do such a thing?" Sigh. Xiao Taiying sighed. "This matter is very troublesome." The Wong brothers were not people from the martial arts world. They were Hawaii public houses, high officials. The 2 were twins, and their minds were interlinked. Their joint attack technique was unparalleled in the world. The 2 of them were equivalent to 4 grandmasters. If they were people from the martial arts world, even if they were grandmasters who were equivalent to 4 grandmasters, they would not show any mercy. They would subdue them no matter the cost. However, the Wong brothers were high officials of the Hawaii public house. That would be troublesome. Killing them was tantamount to becoming an enemy of the Hawaii public house. If it was him, if someone wanted to make things difficult for Zhao Qingshan and the others, the Hawaii public house would definitely not stand idly by. Xiao Qi also frowned. "Is it really them?" "The Wong brothers' temper is not good," Elder Gui muttered. "Wang Xingzhong is slightly better, but Wang Zishu is a rash person. He can't bear even a little bit of anger. Maybe the governor of Desolate Town provoked them. It's also possible that something dirty happened in Desolate Town, and the Wong brothers saw it." Xiao Qi said faintly, "The Wong brothers are upright people." Sigh. Xiao Taiying shook his head and said, "They are high officials of the Hawaii public house. They should know the severity of the matter. If the governor of Desolate Town really made a mistake, he should directly report it to the imperial court. Why did he use the martial arts world's means to cause trouble for himself?" Elder Gui muttered, "Could it be that someone pretended to be the Wong brothers?" "It's not impossible," Chu Li said. He looked at Xiao Qi, and she shook her head gently. No matter how cunning and bad Lu Yurong was, she would not do such a thing. This was playing with fire. It was not wise. Lu Yurong was smart and would not do such a stupid thing. "Now it seems that we can only collect clues." Xiao Taiying shook his head and said, "Then inform the Hawaii public house and let Hai Duke Song give us an explanation." "Hai Duke Song may not care about us," Xiao Qi said. Xiao Taiying pondered and said, "We need a powerful person to come forward and talk to the Hawaii public house. Humph, if they do this, where do we stand?" "Chu Li, when the time comes, you will make a trip." "Big brother." Xiao Qi frowned. Xiao Taiying smiled and said, "Chu Li is a rank 2 scribe. His status is high enough. Moreover, his light body technique is good enough. If it doesn't work, he will run." Chu Li smiled and nodded. He wanted to see the Hawaii public house. The public house was located in the extreme east of the Great Ji dynasty. The Run public house was in the west, the fairies' capital was in the north, and the Hawaii public house was in the south. They were considered neighbors and had a good relationship because the High Duke and the Hawaii public house were good friends. The strength of the Hawaii public house was very strong. It was even better than the Run public house. The public house could not afford to offend them. Even if there was evidence, the Hawaii public house would not care about it, as Xiao Qi said. This job depended on people's mood, and they had to be bullied. It was a completely hard job. Xiao Taiying smiled. "We are in the right. No matter what, we can't bully others too much." Xiao Qi scoffed. Will High Duke Song be reasonable with you? If he is really unreasonable, we will report it to the imperial court. Xiao Taiying scoffed. Xiao Qi glared at him and said nothing. If it was really reported to the imperial court, then they would become the public enemy of the 11 public houses. No matter how the public houses fought, the imperial court would not intervene. This was the consensus of the public houses. If they violated this rule, they would become the public enemy. Xiao Taiying said, "Of course, it's best if we can convince him." Wishful thinking. Xiao Qi said, "How do we find evidence?" "Check the whereabouts of the brothers," Xiao Taiying said. "Don't make a mistake." Xiao Qi waved her hand. "Chu-Li, let's go." Xiao Taiying said, "Chu-Li, get ready. It will be in a few days." Chu-Li Fist saluted and left the palace with Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi and Chu-Li walked in front, while Suru and Xueling followed behind. After boarding the boat, Xiao Qi said, "High Duke Song is proud and arrogant. He cares about his status the most. You may not be able to see him." Chu-Li raised his eyebrows. Xiao Qi said, "He also respects and cherishes talents the most. If you want to move him and see him, you have to make a scene and show your ability." Chu-Li smiled. "No wonder Master Xiao Taiying wants me to go." "Humph, Big Brother wants to grind your spirit." Xiao Qi shook her head. "He has put in a lot of effort." "Then I have to thank Master Xiao Taiying." Chu-Li smiled. Chapter 181. But be careful and don't go overboard. Xiao Qi frowned. High Duke Song has a bad temper. If we go overboard and fight, we'll be at a disadvantage. Chu-Li laughed. "Aren't they friends with the High Duke? They won't fight, right?" "Who knows?" Xiao Qi shook her head and sighed. "There is no real friendship between the High Duke's public houses. It's all about interests. What interests are there to fight for?" Chu-Li asked. "The High Duke's public house was created when the country was founded. It was hereditary and was a High Duke's public house. No matter how much they struggled, they would not disappear. As long as there was a successor, there was no need to fight for fame and benefits." Xiao Qi said, "Humans die for wealth and birds die for food. People are greedy by nature. They will fight for a little benefit. Besides, there are people fanning the flames." Chu-Li nodded. It was the imperial family fanning the flames. "In short, only you can go." Xiao Qi sighed. "It's not appropriate for others to go. I'm worried." "Lady Xiao, don't worry," Chu-Li said. Xiao Qi turned and looked at him. "I'm worried. You're young and impetuous. You can't tolerate it. It's obvious that this matter depends on the High Duke's mood." Chu-Li smiled. "Lady Xiao, why do you have to tolerate it? Even if you're not strong enough, you don't have to be afraid of them. Don't mess around." Xiao Qi frowned. Chu-Li said, "I know what I'm doing." Xiao Qi stared at him. The more Chu-Li said, the more worried she was. She had seen Chu-Li's boldness before. Chu-Li smiled. "I won't be reckless. I'll see how it goes." Xiao Qi nodded slowly. Chu-Li had a deep insight into people's hearts. This was the reason why he was asked to go. He had a good sense of propriety. Other than Chu-Li, it was difficult for others to see through High Duke Song's mind. It was inevitable that they would be controlled and embarrassed the High Duke's public house. Chu-Li returned to the courtyard and continued to study the scripture of life and death. The second level of the scripture of life and death was full of mysteries. His mental strength had increased. The range of the omniscient mirror and the scripture of life and death had greatly increased, and his body had become much stronger. Furthermore, the spiritual energy that he could extract had become purer, and he could differentiate between turbidity and life and death. After 2 days of research, he discovered a new advantage. Apart from having a strong body, He could also wither and flourish like spiritual energy. He could also wither and flourish like a tree. At the first level of the life and death scripture, he could disperse the inner force. Only a sliver of it was left in his dantian. With a thought, spiritual energy would rush in and instantly restore his inner force. Therefore, he looked like he had never practiced martial arts before. At the second level of the life and death scripture, his body could display the two states of life and death. Normally, they would be full of vitality, far surpassing ordinary people, but they could also be like a withered tree without any internal energy. He had become one with the earth and had completely lost all signs of life. Even grandmasters could not sense his existence. He could transform into an ordinary person who did not know martial arts, a sick person, a dying person, or a dead person. He could transform into any one of them, and others would not be able to tell the difference. He sighed inwardly. With such a wondrous effect, if he were to become an assassin, he would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Unfortunately, grandmasters had a keen sense of danger, so it was very difficult to assassinate them. Otherwise, he might be able to assassinate a grandmaster. In the evening, as the sun was setting, Chu Li went to the stargazing tower to practice martial arts with Shao Qi. Both of them had similar cultivation levels. Both of them learned something from the practice. At this time, Lin Quan arrived. Master Shao Taiying invited him. Chu Li followed Lin Quan to Iron Eagle Island. Xiao Taiying was already waiting in the hall. Chu Li closed-fist saluted. After sitting down, he took the teacup from Lin Quan and took a sip. He put down the teacup and looked at Xiao Taiying quietly. The sunset dyed the house red. Xiao Taiying's handsome face was solemn. Chu Li, you should go to White Public House tomorrow. Have you found the evidence? I found 2 witnesses who saw the brothers appear in Desolate Town. I don't think Hai Duke Song will admit it if I don't see it with my own eyes. It's impossible to find witnesses with their own eyes. This is all I can do. This is enough. Okay, I will go. Hai Duke Song has a bad temper. Don't lower yourself to his level, but fight for what you should, Xiao Taiying said. As long as it's not out of control, it's no big deal. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Taiying said, we are a little weaker, but we are not afraid of them. I believe you can handle it well. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Okay, I will handle it carefully. But you have to be careful. People are sinister. Xiao Taiying said, if they really go too far, fight back fiercely. If you can't beat them, just leave. Don't lose. Yes, Chu Li smiled. He did not expect Xiao Taiying's attitude to be tougher than Xiao Qi's. Xiao Taiying sighed. This matter is very troublesome. It happened in our public house. If we can't give an explanation, it will damage the reputation of our public house. Chu Li said, the imperial court did not give us any pressure, right? We are dragging it. Xiao Taiying shook his head, but we can't drag it forever. Chu Li said, the best way is to drag it. Sigh. Xiao Taiying sighed. We are powerless. You have to break through to the Grandmaster's boundary as soon as possible. Chu Li smiled. He could feel Xiao Taiying's exhaustion and helplessness. The public house was weak. They were under the control of others. It was not a good feeling. After 5 days of traveling, Chu Li arrived at Huai Public House in South Sun Town. South Sun Town was as prosperous as Chongming Town. People came and went in an endless stream. Huai Public House occupied a street. It was grand and magnificent. Although it was not as big as the public house, it had its own style. As soon as he stepped into South Sun Town, he felt this domineering aura. He led the horse and walked slowly to the public house. 2 stone lions were ready to pounce. The stone lions of the public house were even bigger. Standing under the stone lions, one would involuntarily want to step back. Beside the two stone lions, there were 4 burly protectors. They were big and round, with long knives. They were surrounded by killing intent. At a glance, one could tell that they had killed and seen blood. When they stared, the timid ones would tremble, and their bodies would go weak. Chu Li led the horse to the public house. He closed fist saluted and took out a name card from his arms. He handed it to the leading protector. "I am Chu Li from a public house. I am here to visit Hai Duke Song." The burly protector took the name card lazily. He glanced at it and then stared at Chu Li. His eyes were like electricity, as if he wanted to see through him. Chu Li frowned. This person was quite rude. It was not the way to treat a guest. After the burly man looked at him, he said, "Wait." He turned and strode away. The remaining 7 protectors stared at him as if they were looking at a criminal. Chu Li secretly shook his head. The style of this Hawaii public house was completely different from that of a public house. They were really arrogant and overbearing. He could not say anything. Every public house's style was different. E public house was gentle, but it was also due to lack of confidence. Their strength was tyrannical, but they might not be as amiable as they were now. After a while, an old man in purple slowly walked over. He stepped out of the high threshold and closed fist saluted with a smile. "I am Hu Guanghui. I am the chief of the guest courtyard. Scribe Chu Li, please follow me." Chu Li raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Is Hai Duke Song here?" "He, the High Duke has something to do. It is not convenient for him to come out and meet you. Scribe Chu Li, please don't blame me." Hu Guanghui smiled and bowed. A protector took Chu Li's horse. Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. "The High Duke is busy. It is rude of me to suddenly visit. Please, please." Hu Guanghui stretched out his hand and smiled as he walked in. "Not at all. Our public houses have a close relationship. If Protector Chu Li comes, we welcome you." Chapter 182. Hu Guanghui was very enthusiastic. He led Chu Li through 2 courtyards and came to an exquisite courtyard in Athens. He laughed and said, "This is a house specially built for distinguished guests in the public house. Scribe Chu Li can have a good rest first. I will report to the High Duke." Chu Li closed fist saluted. "Thank you." You're welcome." Shouing. Hu Guanghui raised his voice. Coming. A delicate little maid came in. She was in a white gown. She was petite and exquisite. Her big eyes revealed a mischievous look. "Chief, this is Scribe Chu Li from the public house. You must serve him well." Hu Guanghui ordered. "Yes." Xiaoing smiled and nodded. She said crisply, "Scribe Chu Li, I am Xiaoing. Please tell me if you need anything." Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. "Thank you, Miss Xiaoing. Scribe Chu Li is a distinguished guest of the public house. You are welcome." Xiaoing waved her small hand. Hu Guanghui closed fist saluted and smiled. "Scribe Chu Li, I will leave first." Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. After Hu Guanghui left, Xiaoing smiled sweetly. "Scribe Chu Li, are you from the public house?" Chu Li nodded. He sat at the stone table in the middle of the courtyard. Next to him was a peach tree in full bloom. A few petals fell to the ground. Xiaoing lit a small red clay stove and smiled. "The second lady of the public house is the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty. Scribe Chu Li must have seen her." "Of course, second lady." Chu Li smiled. Xiaoing straightened her back and clapped her hands. She brought 2 plates of fruits to Chu Li. She blinked her big eyes. "Is second lady Xiao really that beautiful?" "Of course." Chu Li smiled and nodded. Xiaoing said, Our lady is also very beautiful. Chu Li smiled. I have never seen the lady of your public house. She must be very beautiful. Wait until you have the chance. Xiaoying smiled. I think the lady will not lose to the second lady of your public house. Chu Li smiled and shook his head without saying anything. Xiaoying pouted her pink lips. Am I wrong? Chu Li smiled. Each has their own beauty. It is hard to say which is more beautiful. Xiaoying rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. Sly. Chu Li smiled. Is the High Duke very busy? I'm just a little maid. How would I know if the High Duke is busy? Xiaoying shook her head and said, Scribe Chu, what rank are you? Second rank. Chu Li replied. Xiao Ying's eyes widened even more as she cried out involuntarily. Second rank? Chu Li smiled and nodded. That's impossible, right? Xiaoying sized him up and looked at the white jade tablet on his waist. Chu Li smiled and said, I was lucky enough to achieve a few great merits. That's why I was promoted to rank 2. The 12 public houses were under the same system, which was in line with the great Ji dynasty's imperial court. They were divided into 9 grades, with the first being the most respected. Xiaoying sighed. But this is too scary. You're so young, yet you've already reached the second rank. It's rank 2. Second rank was a high position in the manor. To her, it was something that she could only dream of but never reach. Normally, it was very difficult to meet them. Although they were in the same manor, they were like people from 2 different worlds. Chu Li smiled. Miss Xiaoying's martial arts is not bad either. You want to become a guard in the future? I'm timid. I can't be a guard. Xiaoying shook her head and said, My mother doesn't want me to be a guard either. She said that it's best for a girl to be a maid. Chu Li nodded. Your mother is right. Xiaoying beamed with joy. My mother is very powerful. She's already rank 6 now. She felt that Chu Li was easygoing and his words were pleasing to the ear. She wanted to keep chatting with him. Chu Li first entered the Huai public house. He wanted to understand the details of the Huai public house. Through chatting and observing the scene in Xiaoying's mind, he gained a lot. The sun was setting. The sky was red, and the small courtyard was dyed rosy. Chu Li sat at the stone table and looked up at the sky. He said to Xiaoying, Miss Xiaoying, please invite Chief Hu. Okay. Xiaoying saw that his expression was not right. She quickly agreed and ran out. Hu Guanghui quickly came in with a smile. Scribe Chu Li, are you satisfied with Xiaoying's service? Chu Li waved his hand. Miss Xiaoying is very good, but Chief Hu, I want to see High Duke Song. I have something important to tell him. This. Hu Guanghui showed a difficult expression. He sighed. To tell the truth, Scribe Chu Li, I have already reported to the High Duke. However, the High Duke is very busy. He really can't split himself. Chu Li frowned. Is High Duke Song that busy? Sigh. Hu Guanghui shook his head. Jiaming Town is in chaos. The public house is busy suppressing it. Chu Li said, Jiaming Town is in rebellion? Yes. Hu Guanghui sighed helplessly. It happens every year. The public house is in a mess. The High Duke has no time to be distracted. I wonder when High Duke Song can see me. Chu Li said. Hu Guanghui said helplessly, the High Duke is angry now. It's best to avoid the limelight. Scribe Chu Li, what's the big matter? Chu Li said, I need to report to High Duke Song personally. Then Scribe Chu Li must wait patiently. Hu Guanghui said, the High Duke is in a bad mood now. He won't see any guests. Please forgive me, Scribe Chu Li. Hu Guanghui snickered. A small scribe wants to see the High Duke. He must be daydreaming. It was better to give him the cold shoulder first and wait for him to sober up. Chu Li looked at Hu Guanghui and his face darkened. Chief Hu, I'm just a small scribe. Isn't it too much to ask to see Hai Duke's song? Hu Guanghui was startled and smiled. Not at all. Chu Li said, I know I'm in a low position. I'm afraid I won't be able to see Hai Duke's song, right? Scribe Chu Li misunderstood. Hu Guanghui shook his head and smiled. My public house and your public house are old friends. No matter what, the Hai Duke has to find time to see him. I wonder how Hai Duke Xiao is doing. Thank you for your concern. Chu Li said faintly, the Hai Duke is still in isolated cultivation. Sigh. Hu Guanghui sighed. I really admire Hai Duke Xiao. Such perseverance is rare in this world. Chu Li said, please report to Hai Duke's song. If I don't see him tomorrow, I can only return home. Yes, I will definitely report. Hu Guanghui smiled. Chu Li's face darkened as he closed fist, saluted, and picked up the teacup. Hu Guanghui closed fist, saluted, and left. He cursed in his heart. This young man has a big temper and a big ego. He wants to see the Hai Duke tomorrow. Wishful thinking. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Through the omniscient mirror, he knew that Hu Guanghui was slippery, but he did not dare to delay. He had already reported to Hai Duke Song. This Hai Duke Song was really arrogant. Even if the two public houses were friends, he still acted like this. Could it be that he knew about the Wang brothers? Was he deliberately doing this to provoke him to leave? It could not be dragged on like this. He came to question him face to face. If he was dragged on for a few days, he would lose his edge. Xiaoying saw him frowning, and his bearing was solemn. She did not dare to speak loudly. There was a sound of footsteps outside, followed by Hu Guanghui's laughter. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and looked through the omniscient mirror. He saw an acquaintance, Shi Wu, the chief high official of the Rin public house. In front of Shi Wu was a handsome young man walking with his hands behind his back. He was arrogant and had a natural air of nobility. Hu Guanghui smiled beside him and entered the small courtyard on the east side of him. It was really a narrow road for enemies. Chu Li pushed the omniscient mirror to another level and saw clearly what they were thinking. He knew the identity of this handsome young man. He was the second young master of the Rin public house, Lu Yushu. They were here to propose marriage. Chu Li frowned even more. No wonder. This was even more troublesome. Chapter 183. Xiaoying whispered, Scribe Chu Li? Chu Li looked up at her. Xiaoying whispered, do you want to have dinner? All right. Chu Li's voice slowed down and smiled gently. Thank you, Miss Xiaoying. Xiaoying breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, when Chu Li's face was gloomy, the air seemed to solidify, and she could not breathe. When his face relaxed, the surroundings also relaxed, and she could breathe again. She smiled and said, Scribe Chu Li, why are you so polite? I'll go get it. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Xiaoying trotted out of the courtyard. Chu Li walked out of the courtyard with his hands behind his back and came to the east courtyard. Two protectors blocked the door. The one on the left was a middle-aged man, and the one on the right was a young man. Their eyes were sharp, and their hands were on their swords. They stared at him coldly, and obviously did not want him to come close. Chu Li smiled. Are you from the Rin public house? Yes, who are you? The middle-aged protector on the left asked. Chu Li smiled. Chu Li from the public house. Chu Li? The middle-aged protector frowned and looked at him carefully. He said coldly, You are the Chu Li from the public house? Chu Li smiled. Is there anyone who impersonates me? What's going on? Shi Wu came to the courtyard door and saw Chu Li. His face suddenly changed. It's you? Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. High official Shi, we meet again. Why are you here? Shi Wu said coldly. Shi Wu's face was gloomy and he stared at him. He wanted to hit Chu Li with his palm. Chu Li's smile became calmer. Of course I came to Hawaii Public House as a guest. I didn't expect to meet you here. High official Shi Wu personally came. The one inside must be the heir to the High Duke. You don't need to know. Shi Wu said coldly. Chu Li, you better behave yourself. This is Hawaii Public House. Chu Li smiled. Of course I won't do it here. He closed fist saluted and turned to leave. Shi Wu stared at him and watched him go to the west courtyard. He frowned. Elder Shi Wu, this Chu Li, the middle-aged protector, whispered. Humph, this is him. Be careful and be alert, Shi Wu said coldly. He turned into the courtyard and came to Hu Guanghui. Hu Guanghui looked at him with a smile. Shi Wu said, Chief Hu, please change to another courtyard. Oh, is there anything wrong with this courtyard? Hu Guanghui said with a smile. We are going to be a family soon, so you don't have to be polite. If you have any requests, I will do my best. Shi Wu scoffed. The further away from Chu Li, the better. Was it Scribe Chu Li just now? Hu Guanghui was startled, and then he smiled and said, It's my dereliction of duty. Good, good, change another room. As the chief of the guest courtyard, of course, he knew that the Public House and the Rin Public House were not on good terms. Lu Yushu's figure was tall, his face handsome, his gaze sharp and threatening. Elder Shi, which Chu Li? Second Master, it is Chu Li from the Public House. Shi Wu bowed and said, He is in the west courtyard. Why is he here? Lu Yushu frowned and scoffed. Hu Guanghui chuckled. Young Master Lu, you don't have to worry. He's here to see the High Duke, but the High Duke doesn't want to talk to him. So he's been staying there for 2 days. He doesn't dare to mess around in our public house. Lu Yushu scoffed. This is a good opportunity. Kill him. Shi Wu opened his mouth, glanced at Hu Guanghui, and stopped talking. He sighed. Chief Hu, thank you. All right, follow me. Hu Guanghui smiled. Lu Yushu waved his hand and said lightly, Chief Hu, this time we're here to propose a marriage for my brother. Let Chu Li move out of that courtyard and change to another place. Chief Hu should be able to do it, right? This. Hu Guanghui hesitated. He said awkwardly, Young Master Lu, this isn't too good, right? Shi Wu said in a low voice. Chief Hu, he's just a small scribe. How can he be on the same level as my young master? Yes, yes, that's true. Hu Guanghui quickly nodded and smiled. All right, then I'll tell Scribe Chu Li. Ask him to move out of the west courtyard. I want to stay in his courtyard, Lu Yushu said. This. Hu Guanghui smiled bitterly. Young Master Lu, why do you have to do this? Shi Wu coughed lightly. Second young master, don't make things too difficult for Chief Hu. It's fine for us to stay here. Lu Yushu looked at him discontentedly, and Shi Wu gave him a look. Lu Yushu snorted. All right, stay here first, and let Chu Li move out. Don't be an eyesore in front of me. I don't like it. All right, I'll let him move out tomorrow. Hu Guanghui smiled. What tomorrow? Lu Yushu raised his eyebrows and snorted. Move out immediately. Young Master Lu, I really can't do this. Hu Guanghui said helplessly. If I do this, my position as a chief will come to an end. After all, I still have to give him some face. Second young master, let's do it tomorrow, Shi Wu said. Hu Guanghui hurriedly said goodbye and left for fear that if he stayed any longer, there would be more difficult demands. Lu Yushu waited for him to leave and snorted, Elder Shi, it's better to let Chu Li leave directly. Why do you still have to stay for one night? Second young master, Chu Li is bold and reckless. We have to guard against him. Shi Wu said, if we force him too hard, I'm afraid he will do something reckless. He dares to assassinate me? Lu Yushu sneered. Shi Wu nodded slowly. He will definitely do it. They had assassinated the second lady of the Public House. It could be said that they had shed all pretense of cordiality. Based on Chu Li's guts, he would definitely dare to assassinate young master. He was as fast as a ghost and impossible to guard against. Isn't he afraid that the two public houses will go to war? Young master, I'll stay in your house tonight. All right, Lu Yushu snorted. If he really dares to mess around, no matter what, I'll kill him. Shi Wu smiled bitterly and shook his head. Lady has used all her means, but he is still alive, and well. Lu Yushu snorted and said no more. He had a deep understanding of third younger sister's means. She really had a well-thought-out and meticulous plan. Even she could not do anything to Chu Li. It would be better for him to spend less effort and make him look bad to vent his anger. Chu Li saw what they said through the omniscient mirror and frowned. After he finished his dinner, Hu Guanghui smiled and closed fist saluted. Good news, Scribe Chu Li, heir to the High Duke, is here to see you on behalf of the High Duke. Chu Li frowned. Heir to the High Duke? Yes, Hu Guanghui smiled and said, the High Duke is too busy, so heir to the High Duke will do it on his behalf. Please follow me. Chu Li thought about it, got up and followed him out of the courtyard. After passing through 2 courtyards, they came to a hall. There were 4 middle-aged protectors standing in front of the hall. They were all innate masters, full of energy and spirit. Their eyes swept over like a sharp blade, cutting through the air. Chu Li stepped into the hall. Sitting in the hall was an ordinary-looking young man with a round face and big eyes. He had a domineering aura. With one look, one could tell that he was not a good person and was not easy to get along with. Heir to the High Duke, this is Scribe Chu Li from the Yi Public House. Hu Guanghui smiled. All right, you may leave. Song Shiling impatiently waved his hand. Yes, I will take my leave. Hu Guanghui smiled and left the hall. Song Shiling lazily looked at Chu Li. Hey, I say, your Yi Public House is too ridiculous. You can be a rank 2 scribe at this age. Your rank is too worthless. Chu Li closed fist saluted and said, Heir to the High Duke, I have something to report. Say it. Song Shiling picked up the teacup and said, casually. Chu Li said, the high officials of your public house, the Wang brothers Wang Zhongjing and Wang Zishu, killed the castellan of Desolate Town. I am ordered by the eldest master to come and ask, what is your intention? What are you talking about? Song Shiling put down the teacup with a bang and said loudly, killing the castellan. You are talking nonsense. Heir to the High Duke, this is not a trivial matter. How can I talk nonsense? Chu Li said sternly, my public house is witnesses. I cannot deny it. Chapter 184. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Song Shiling flew into a rage. What are you laughing at? Chu Li's smile did not change. Don't you find it ridiculous? Heir to the High Duke. Bastard, are you saying that I'm ridiculous? Song Shiling stood up abruptly. He glared angrily and shouted, believe it or not, I'll kill you. Chu Li was still smiling. Heir to the High Duke, I'm a rank 2 scribe of the Yi Public House. You should know the consequences of killing me. Humph, you're just a scribe. Song Shiling sneered disdainfully. Do you think that the Yi Public House would dare to start a war with us just because you're dead? Dream on. If the Yi Public House doesn't start a war with you, the guards of the Yi Public House will be bitterly disappointed. They will lose their morale, and the High Duke's public house will be finished. Chu Li shook his head and said, if you were the eldest master, what would you choose? To fight or not to fight? Xiao Taiying doesn't have the guts. Song Shiling curled his lips. Chu Li waved his hand and said, heir to the High Duke, forget about these childish words. Let's get down to business. How do you want to deal with the Wang brothers? What Wang brothers? There's no such thing. Song Shiling snorted. 2 people came out to frame us unjustly, and we have to deal with the high officials. This is simply a joke, the biggest joke in the world. What is the public house trying to do? Chu Li said, the heir to the High Duke is trying to deny it. Humph, so what if I deny it? Song Shiling cast a sidelong glance at him, fearlessly. Why don't you go back and tell Seo Tying to behave himself? Don't think that he can rely on the relationship between his father and my father to send someone over to flaunt his power. Chu Li nodded. If the heir to the High Duke says so, then I can only use force. Ha! Song Shiling laughed and shook his head. All right, you want to use force? Could it be that you want to fight? Chu Li said, if we don't get along, it's pointless to waste any more words. Heir to the High Duke, farewell. I won't send you off. Song Shiling waved his hand and said, you'd better not come again, otherwise I won't be polite. Chu Li shook his head and said, it seems that the heir to the High Duke does not respect our public house at all. What's there to see in your public house? Song Shiling said disdainfully, you're getting weaker and weaker. Anyone can bully you. Chu Li said, Huai Public House wants to form a marriage alliance with Ren Public House. So, they're so confident, right? That's right. Song Shiling snorted. What do you have to say? Chu Li said, let's wait and see. If you dare to assassinate Lu Yushu in the manner, I will kill you. We will hunt you down. Song Shiling said coldly, we won't rest until one of us is dead. Chu Li smiled. Heir to the High Duke is so impressive. Get lost. Song Shiling said impatiently, you're just a mere scribe. I've already given you face by talking to you for so long, but you're so shameless. Get out of the public house immediately. Chu Li shook his head. He turned around and left. Chu Li was not too angry about Song Shiling's bad attitude, nor did he lose his cool. With the omniscient mirror, he was able to remain calm. He would not be moved by outsiders. He strode out of the hall, passed through 2 courtyards, and arrived at the gate of the public house. Hu Guanghui was quite responsible. He had already asked someone to lead the horse and stood in front of the gate to wait. When he saw Chu Li coming out, he closed fist saluted and smiled. Chu Li took the reins, took a deep look at Hu Guanghui, and smiled. Song Shiling was afraid that he would assassinate Lu Yushu at night, so he hurriedly drove him away. It was the crucial moment of the marriage alliance between the 2 houses. If Lu Yushu was assassinated, even if he was slightly injured, it would affect the relationship between the 2 public houses. Huai Public House would also lose face. Song Shiling looked rough, but he was smart. In order to be safe, he drove Chu Li out of the Huai Public House. However, the root cause was that the Public House was weak and was not taken seriously by the Huai Public House. Otherwise, they would not dare to be so rude. Just as he took the reins, a burst of laughter came from behind. Isn't this Scribe Chu Li from the Public House? Why, you just came and you want to leave. Chu Li turned his head and looked at Lu Yushu. He closed fist saluted. Master Lu, I've heard a lot about you. Lu Yushu's green robe fluttered. His face was like jade, and he was extraordinarily handsome. Lu Yushu smiled and said, I'm not famous. As for you, Chu Li, I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. Shi Wu followed Lu Yushu closely. His eyes were bright, and he stared at Chu Li without blinking in case he suddenly attacked. Chu Li said, Master Lu, I heard that you want to unite with the Huai Public House by marriage. Yes. Lu Yushu nodded. When my big brother got married. You want me to send you an invitation? Oh, it's a pity that you're just a scribe. I don't think you're qualified. What a pity. He looked at Chu Li with a teasing expression and smiled. Chu Li smiled without changing his expression. Then I'll congratulate you in advance. I hope no one will ruin it, and it will be smooth. Lu Yushu's face darkened. The one with the surname Chu. What do you mean? Chu Li smiled and said, Master Lu, if on the day of the wedding the bride disappeared when we were about to go through the ceremony, wouldn't it be quite interesting? How lively! The one with the surname Chu. You don't have that ability. Lu Yushu said coldly. Chu Li looked at Shi Wu. High official, Shi Wu knows if I have that ability. The one with the surname Chu. You're tired of living. Lu Yushu scoffed. Shi Wu's face changed slightly. He narrowed his eyes, and his gaze was as sharp as a knife. Chu Li spread out his hands. I've been living very comfortably. Thank you for your concern, Master Lu. Shi Wu scoffed. The one with the surname Chu. You should know that if you really do that, the Ren public house and the Huai public house will not forgive you. You will die without a burial place. Chu Li floated up to the horse and sat steadily on the horse. He smiled and said, High official, Shi Wu doesn't have to worry about the consequences. You should think about it carefully. If something like that really happens, what will happen to all of you? After he finished speaking, he laughed and whipped the horse to gallop away. Looking at his disappearing back, Lu Yushu kicked a stone fiercely. That damn guy! Shi Wu frowned and did not say anything. Lu Yushu turned his head and looked at him. Elder Shi Wu, what's wrong? Master, we have to guard against this. Shi Wu showed a worried expression. If he really does that, I'm afraid, if the two public houses send out all the grandmasters, I don't believe that we can't stop him. Lu Yushu sneered. Don't listen to his bragging, it's nonsense. Shi Wu shook his head and said, Master has never seen his light body technique. It's really impossible to guard against it. Even if there are grandmasters, they may not be able to stop it. Then what should we do? Lu Yushu said. Could it be that we are scared by him and do not dare to get married? We have to report to Lady Xiao. Lady Xiao will have an idea, Shi Wu said. Lu Yushu said proudly, but no matter how powerful he is, I just used a little trick, and he still got out of here with his tail between his legs. Shi Wu smiled. No matter how powerful Chu Li was, he was just a scribe. He could not erase the difference in status. Let's go, ignore him. Lu Yushu turned and walked back. Hu Guanghui quickly welcomed him with a warm smile. Lu Yushu scoffed. Chief Hu, tidy up his courtyard. I will stay in it tonight. All right. Hu Guanghui smiled and said, I will tidy it up right away. Ha! Lu Yushu laughed and entered the public house. Shi Wu shook his head helplessly. Second Master still did not know how powerful Chu Li was and underestimated Chu Li. The next morning, Chu Li came to the public house of Huai Public House again. Hu Guanghui hurried out with a smile on his face and closed fist saluted. Scribe Chu Li, why are you back again? Chu Li said, I'm here to pay my respects to High Duke Song. Chapter 185. Chu Li smiled and took out a small cloth bag from his arms. He handed it to Hu Guanghui. Chief Hu, please present this to High Duke Song, or the heir to the High Duke. However, I'm afraid that the heir to the High Duke's words don't count. What's inside? Hu Guanghui cautiously looked at the cloth bag and did not reach out to take it. Chu Li said, a few jade pendants for the young master to play with. Only then did Hu Guanghui stretch out her hand to take it. She opened the pouch and took a look. Indeed, there were a few jade pendants in different sizes, and they were all of good quality. What exactly is it? Hu Guanghui asked curiously. Chu Li said, present it to High Duke Song. High Duke Song will know what it is. All right, I'll go in and report first. Guard Chu, please wait a moment. Hu Guanghui cupped his fists and turned around to enter the mansion. The 8 guards stared at him coldly. Judging from their stance, if he took a step forward, they would attack. Chu Li stood aside with his hands behind his back. Lu Yushu was dressed in a green robe and looked handsome. Accompanied by Shi Wu, he swaggered out of the residence. When he saw Chu Li, he immediately smiled and quickened his pace. Lu Yushu stepped out of the residence and came before Chu Li. He frowned and looked at him. Chu Li, why are you here again? Can Master Lu decide whether I come or not? Chu Li smiled. This isn't the Rin public house, is it? Could young Master Lu still be the master of Huai public house? Could it be that the Rin public house wants to control the Huai public house through marriage? Nonsense! Lu Yushu snapped and glared at Chu Li with a dark expression. Surname Chu, don't talk nonsense. You're really thick-skinned. You've been chased out. And you still have the face to come back? Chu Li smiled. Young Master Lu, do you not understand why I was chased out? What do I understand? Lu Yushu's handsome face was gloomy. He glared at Chu Li. He was so infuriated by Chu Li that his murderous intent surged. He wanted nothing more than to stab Chu Li to death with his sword. Chu Li replied, Isn't it to save your life? Arrogant! Lu Yushu sneered. Do you really think you can kill me? Chu Li smiled. Why don't you ask High Official Shi if it's possible? Chu Li, if you dare to touch my master, don't blame the High Duke's public house for retaliating 1,000 times over. Shi Wu said coldly, It is said that Second Lady Xiao is the first beauty of the great Ji dynasty. It would be best for her to be my master's wife. Chu Li smiled and said, You're quite brave then. The second lady is engaged to King An. I wonder if His Highness King An would agree to it. Shi Wu and Lu Yushu's expressions changed. The relationship between the High Duke's public house and the imperial family was subtle, but they would never betray the imperial family. This was their bottom line. The imperial family was far more powerful than the High Duke's public house. Usually, there were some things that could be done against the royal family, but once something like this happened, it would definitely not end well. The royal family's reputation was very important. Chu Li said, Young Master Lu, I'm back. So be careful. Lu Yushu sneered. I don't believe you dare to break into Huai public house. Chu Li smiled without saying a word. Shi Wu pulled Lu Yushu and gave him a look. The two of them turned around and returned to Huai public house. It was really a narrow road for enemies. 2 days ago, it was the master who deliberately humiliated Chu Li. This time it was really a coincidence. However, the master had repeatedly looked for trouble. It was really dangerous. If he angered Chu Li, he was afraid that he would disregard Huai public house and really assassinate him. This time, he followed the master alone. He was afraid that the target would be too big. If he came over quietly and settled things, then everything would be settled and he would no longer be afraid of destroying it. Unfortunately, he met Chu Li, who Guanghui passed through 2 courtyards and came to the hall. Song Shiling was undressed and reading a book. His chubby face was solemn. He was completely different from the Song Shiling in front of Chu Li. It was as if they were 2 different people. Heir to the High Duke, who Guanghui entered the hall and bowed. That Chu Li is here again. Just chase him out. Song Shiling did not let go of the book. His eyes were still fixed on the book, and he waved his hand casually. He said to present this to the heir to the High Duke, who Guanghui presented the cloth bag. Song Shiling put down the book and waved his hand. Hu Guanghui stepped forward and handed it over. After Song Shiling untied it, he took a look and directly poured a few jade tablets on the table. He looked at it and frowned. Hu Guanghui stretched his neck and smiled. Heir to the High Duke, what is this? Song Shiling glanced at him and snorted, Can't you tell? I really can't tell. Hu Guanghui shook his head. I'm dull. Please enlighten me, heir to the High Duke. Old thing. Song Shiling snorted and picked up a piece of jade. This one is from the governor of White Horse City. This one is from the governor of Limestone City. This one is from the governor of Raging Waves City. And this one is from the governor of Calming Sea City. Hu Guanghui frowned. Heir to the High Duke, did he go to several cities and ask the governors for it? Can you grow some brains? Song Shiling's face was gloomy, and he said angrily, if someone asks you for this, can you give it? This is the most personal thing. These jade plates were personal things of people with status. They were used to ward off evil and suppress spirits. Even close people would not show it. Why would they give it to Chu Li? Even if Chu Li used the identity of Huai Public House, they would not give it. They could only steal it. How Chu Li stole it aside. He wanted to show that if he stole it, it would be easy to take these people's lives. This was clearly a threat that couldn't be more obvious. Hu Guanghui quickly said, did he kill these governors? Give him 100 guts. Song Shiling sneered. Hu Guanghui said, heir to the High Duke. Do you want to call him over and ask? Let him in. Song Shiling's face became gloomier and snorted, I want to see what he wants to do. Hu Guanghui hurriedly went out, fearing that he would be angered by heir to the High Duke if he stayed any longer. Song Shiling played with a few jade plates. His face was gloomy and his mind turned. A few days ago, his father was in the public house because he did not want to see Chu Li. He did not want to shed all pretenses with public house. There was a buffer for him to come forward. After all, he had a friendship with High Duke Seo. Now that his father was really not in the public house, the matter fell to him. How to deal with Chu Li's threat was a problem. Chu Li slowly walked into the hall, closed fist, saluted, and smiled. Heir to the High Duke, how have you been? Song Shiling said coldly, sit. Chu Li sat opposite him and took the teacup handed by the maid. He smiled and said, heir to the High Duke, what advice do you have? Surname Chu, what do you mean by this? Song Shiling pointed to the jade plates on the table. Did you kill them? Chu Li smiled and said, whether they live or die. It all depends on heir to the High Duke. Song Shiling squinted his big eyes and sneered. How dare you? Chu Li spread his hands and said, the Wang brothers dared to kill the governor of Chongming Road, but they are safe and sound. They are protected by the public house. I am also a scribe. It is not a big deal to kill a few governors. Aren't you afraid of the imperial house high officials? Song Shiling scoffed. Chu Li said, they have no evidence and can't find a witness. How can they say that I killed them? I am a witness. Song Shiling said. Chu Li smiled and said, heir to the High Duke saw me kill them with your own eyes? You can be biased and protect those who saw it with your own eyes, let alone those who didn't see it with your own eyes. Your public house is ready to shed all pretense of cordiality with us. Song Shiling sneered. Surname Chu, don't cause trouble for your public house. Chu Li said, whether we are friend or foe, it all depends on High Duke Song. Bulsh ****. Song Shiling shouted, do you believe that I will kill you now? Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Heir to the High Duke's words sound familiar. Song Shiling shouted, guards! Chapter 186. Chu Li glanced at the 4 grandmasters and looked at Song Shiling. Heir to the High Duke, do you really want to do this? Cripple him for me. Song Shiling shouted. The 4 grandmasters immediately rushed towards Chu Li. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and appeared behind Song Shiling. He gave him a light slap. Song Shiling had not reached the grandmaster's boundary, and he had never thought that Chu Li would dare to offend him. Due to his carelessness, his personal grandmaster was not by his side. Chu Li slapped him, and his body immediately froze. He could not move an inch, and several of his acupuncture points were sealed in an instant. Chu Li stood behind him and quietly watched the 4 grandmasters. He smiled at the 6 pairs of angry eyes. Surname Chu, how dare you? Song Shiling flew into a rage and shouted, If you dare to touch a single hair of mine, I'll make you die, without a burial ground. Chu Li reached out to grab a strand of his hair and gently pulled it off. I've touched a strand of your hair. What do you think? Kill him. Song Shiling roared. Chu Li stretched out his hand and pressed on his shoulder. He smiled. Before you kill me, the heir to the High Duke has to leave first. Shall we go to the underworld together? The one with the surname Chu. Song Shiling gritted his teeth and snorted, Tell me, what are your conditions? I know that the heir to the High Duke will never agree to hand over the Wang brothers. Chu Li said. Of course. Song Shiling snorted. The 2 Wang brothers were equivalent to 4 grandmasters. With the loss of 2 of them, the strength of Huai Public House was greatly reduced. Their vitality was greatly damaged, and they could not recover in a short time. Chu Li said, I want to ask the heir to the High Duke to submit a memorial to ask for forgiveness and explain this matter clearly. As for how the emperor will deal with it, it is not up to us to decide. With the ability of your Huai Public House, it is not difficult to get away. Song Shiling said coldly, Impossible. Chu Li pressed on his shoulder. Then I can only bring the heir to the High Duke away and go to my residence to discuss. You think you can escape? Song Shiling sneered. You won't dare to do anything to me. Even if I go to the public house, no one can force me if I don't want to write. Chu Li said, Heir to the High Duke was born noble. If you don't provoke me, I won't do anything to you. Song Shiling smiled smugly. Chu Li sighed. At most, I'll take off the heir to the High Duke's clothes and walk around the town. I'm sure everyone will be happy to see that. In less than a month, the entire Ji dynasty will know of the heir to the High Duke's name. Despicable. Song Shiling snorted through gritted teeth. Chu Li smiled. This is also forced by the heir to the High Duke. It is purely a helpless move. All right, Song Shiling said coldly. I'll remember this. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Chu Li was too daring. Since they dared to kidnap him, they were capable of anything. First, he would write it to deceive them. Then, when he was released, he would send out all the grandmasters in the residence. No matter what, he would kill him and take back this confession. That's great. Chu Li smiled. He patted Song Shiling's back lightly. The acupoints on Song Shiling's upper body were immediately unsealed, and he could move again. However, his legs were still sore and numb, and he could not walk. Chu Li extended his hand. The 2 of them floated up and landed in front of the table by the window. Chu Li personally ground the ink. After grinding the ink, he stretched out his hand. Heir to the High Duke, please. Song Shiling glared at him coldly. He picked up the brush and brewed, without moving. Chu Li stared at the side and turned a blind eye to the 4 grandmasters with ghastly pale faces. They were in a dilemma and could not wait to slap Chu Li to death. Under their noses, they watched helplessly as he kidnapped the heir to the High Duke. Even if the heir to the High Duke did not bear a grudge, they were also sullen and felt ashamed of their position as high officials. Song Shiling put down the brush and wrote a full piece of paper in one go. He threw the brush out of the window. He stared coldly at Chu Li. Are you satisfied? Chu Li picked up the white paper and blew on it. He glanced at it carefully and nodded with satisfaction. He smiled. Thank you, heir to the High Duke. Song Shiling was expressionless. Can you let me go now? Of course. Chu Li smiled and patted Song Shiling. Heir to the High Duke, we'll meet again. He disappeared on the spot. Song Shiling shouted, Catch up with him. Get him back. Yes, the 4 high officials replied. They rushed out. Lu Yushu sat at the stone table under the peach tree, and drank tea lazily. Elder Shiwu, sit down. Don't be so nervous. Shiwu's eyes looked around. I'm not thirsty. I'll just stand. Lu Yushu said, Elder Shiwu, he's not that scary. Shiwu said, Master, you shouldn't have provoked him. Humph. If I don't provoke him, will he be friendly to me? Lu Yushu curled his lips. Think about how many people he killed in our residence. Shiwu shook his head and said, This is something that lady should worry about. Master did not have to provoke him. Since I've already provoked him, I might as well offend him to death. Lu Yushu scoffed. He's not that great. Didn't he still get chased out of the residence? Sigh. Shiwu shook his head helplessly. Master was young and impetuous. He did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He had never experienced Chu Li's power. The more he said, the more unconvinced Master was and wanted to compete. His words were counterproductive. It was best to shut his mouth. At this moment, Chu Li suddenly appeared in front of the two and smiled at them. Shiwu had goosebumps all over his body. His inner energy was running wildly. Chu Li's left hand threw out a cold light and instantly appeared in front of Shiwu. Shiwu knew the power of his flying dagger and dodged it. As soon as he dodged it, he heard another flying dagger shooting out. Master, be careful! Shiwu's eyes were about to crack as he shouted. The cold light from Chu Li's right hand instantly hit Lu Yushu and sent him flying into the air. Chu Li smiled at Shiwu and suddenly disappeared. Shiwu could not care about chasing Chu Li. He anxiously caught Lu Yushu, who was in the air. Lu Yushu's right chest was pierced by a flying dagger, but there was no blood. His face was pale and his eyes were at a loss. Shiwu hurriedly used his inner energy to protect his chest and hurriedly said, Master, Master. Lu Yushu slowly lowered his head and struggled violently. Shiwu quickly held him down. Master, don't move. I'm going to die. Lu Yushu stared at the flying dagger and shouted in panic, Am I going to die? Shiwu hurriedly said, Master, don't worry. You won't die. This is not a fatal wound. This dagger was on the right side. If it was on the left side, you might have died. Right side. Lu Yushu looked down and then grinned. Ha! It's the right side. It's the right side. This Chu Li is really stupid. Shiwu opened his mouth and closed it again. Lu Yushu laughed. He must have mistaken the right side as the left side. Such a fool is really strange. Shiwu took out a jade bottle and poured out a red pill and stuffed it into Lu Yushu's mouth. He quickly poked his chest a few times and suddenly pulled out the flying dagger. Surprisingly, the wound did not bleed. Shiwu looked down at the flying dagger. The flying dagger was chilling. It turned out that it was driven by the coldest inner energy. In this way, the wound was directly frozen, and he would not die from excessive blood loss. Ha! Lu Yushu fell into the excitement of escaping death and laughed. The next time we meet, I must thank Chu Li properly. Thank him for not killing me. Ha ha! His face was full of sarcasm, and he laughed even louder. Sigh. Shiwu shook his head and sighed. He did not want to say more. Master was not stupid. After a while, he would be able to understand after calming down. Ha! This kind of fool actually caused the people in our residence to suffer heavy casualties. Little sister is too muddle-headed. Lu Yushu laughed. Shiwu could not bear it anymore. Master, do you really think that Chu Li would make such a mistake? Chapter 187. Lu Yushu's laughter stopped abruptly. Elder Shiwu, what do you mean? Shiwu shook his head and said, Master, Chu Li's wisdom is comparable to Lady Xiao. Will he make such a mistake? Lu Yushu frowned. Isn't it? Shiwu sighed. He deliberately showed mercy. His flying blade is steady, accurate, and ruthless. How can he make a mistake? Why should he show mercy? Lu Yushu frowned. Our public houses are enemies. He still showed mercy when he had the chance. He is not stupid. Shiwu shook his head and sighed. Master, the key is your identity. He. Lu Yushu laughed. He won't dare to kill me, right? More or less. Shiwu nodded. If he really killed Master, how can Lady Xiao not go crazy? He could imagine that once Master was killed, Ren Public House would retaliate wildly, not to mention assassinating the Public House's master and lady. Even the protectors would be out of luck. It would be a bloodbath. Just thinking about it sent chills down his spine. I thought he was brave. Lu Yushu shook his head and snorted, just as well. Shiwu sighed. He is brave but not brainless. Public House was not strong enough now. They were at a disadvantage against Ren Public House. After Chu Li appeared out of nowhere and turned the situation around, Ren Public House did not go all out against them. Lu Yushu was not convinced and laughed. Such a good opportunity, and he let it go. Does he have a brain? Shiwu said, Master, Chu Li is far smarter than you think. Not to mention anything else. Can you guess Lady Zhao's thoughts? Little sister was born with a lot of ideas. I can't compare. Lu Yushu waved his hand. Shiwu nodded and said, Lady Xiao sees him as a strong opponent. Do you think he is stupid? If it was me, I would not let go of this opportunity, Lu Yushu said. Shiwu said, I think there must be a deeper meaning to his action. Sparing Master's life is not only a favor, but also a warning to Lady Xiao. Warning? Lu Yushu was puzzled. Isn't it easy for Chu Li to kill Master? Shiwu said, Lady Xiao Qi is afraid of harming the innocent. She does not dare to push the Public House too hard. According to Lady Xiao Qi's temperament, if she does not get rid of Chu Li, the Public House will be in trouble. She will not attack Public House again. Lu Yushu frowned and scoffed. We'll just stay in the residence. The Public House may not be safe. Shiwu shook his head. Lu Yushu scoffed. Looks like this Chu Li must be eliminated. Shiwu nodded slowly. As long as Chu Li is not eliminated, we will not be able to eat or sleep in peace. I'll leave this to Miss to worry about. Ha! That's true. This kind of thing should be left to little sister. Lu Yushu laughed and said, You almost scared me to death just now. Let's go back early. Anyway, the marriage proposal is almost done. It's good to go back early, Shiwu nodded. He was very wary of Chu Li. Chu Li appeared and disappeared mysteriously. Chu Li did not dare to kill the young master, but he was not afraid of him. Song Sherlin paced around the hall with his hands behind his back. His chubby face was gloomy. From time to time, he would walk to the door to take a look, then come back and continue pacing back and forth. After a long while, a middle-aged guard strode in. Song Sherling hurriedly said, How is it? Did you catch him? The middle-aged guard looked honest and experienced. He said helplessly, Child, I can't find his shadow. Do you want to ambush him outside of Chongming town? They desperately chased after him in the public house. Except for the two grandmasters who were in charge, the rest were sent out. There was no shortage of people with excellent light body technique, but they did not even see Chu Li's shadow. Either Chu Li was cunning and ran in another direction, or Chu Li's speed was too fast that they could not catch up. Huai Public House had many eyes and ears, almost everywhere, but they could not see Chu Li. As a result, the safest way was to rush to Chongming town in advance and guard. Song Sherling frowned. and said, "Nothing. Go and guard outside Chongming town." With Chu Li's light body technique, he could probably escape, in case he sent a signal to summon the Grand Masters of the public house. It would definitely be a chaotic battle. If it was any other time, if the Grand Masters of the public house were sent over, they would definitely have the upper hand. They would not be afraid of the public house. Now it was troubled times, for Grand Masters went to Whitestone Town, and the remaining 6 went to chase Chu Li. But he had to get back that apology memorial. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble. "Do as you said. Go outside Chongming town," Song Shiling said fiercely. "Yes." The middle-aged protector closed fist saluted. Just as he was about to go out, suddenly a loud laughter sounded behind him. He quickly turned his head to look. Chu Li appeared out of thin air in the hall and smiled at Song Shiling. "Heir to the High Duke still hasn't given up." Song Shiling's face suddenly changed and became gloomy. "Surname Chu, you haven't left?" Chu Li smiled. "I came back to take a look." "What are you doing?" Song Shiling said coldly. His whole body tensed up. He had a deep understanding of Chu Li's audacity. At the same time, he was secretly shocked and angry. The High Duke's public house was nothing but an empty shell. He had silently barged in, and no one had stopped him. Chu Li said, "Heir to the High Duke still hasn't given up. You want to take back this apology memorial?" "Humph." Song Shiling snorted coldly. Chu Li shook his head and said, "Heir to the High Duke, the apology memorial has been sent out. It is not in my hands." Song Shiling's face was pale. Chu Li said, "Let me remind Heir to the High Duke that the Hawaii public house is empty now. I won't do anything, but the others might. See you later." He waved his hand and disappeared in a flash. "Pa!" Song Shiling picked up the teacup and smashed it on the ground. He shouted, "Chu Li!" The middle-aged protector was motionless like a statue. He did not dare to breathe loudly. They had neglected their duties as protectors to let Chu Li come and go as he pleased. Song Shiling sat down on the armchair. His face was livid, and he was panting heavily. His anger surged, and he couldn't suppress it no matter what. As the heir to the High Duke, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? If he did not take revenge, he would not be a human. After a long while, Song Shiling took a deep breath and said coldly, "Elder Wu, call them back. There is no need to chase." "Yes," Elder Wu quickly responded and left in a hurry. "Ha ha ha." Xiao Taiying held a piece of white paper and laughed. The midday sun shone brightly in the hall. Xiao Taiying, Xiao Qi, and Chu Li were sitting in the hall. Lin Quan stood behind Xiao Taiying as if he did not exist. "Awesome! Really awesome!" Xiao Taiying laughed and passed the white paper to Xiao Qi. He was overjoyed. "I did not expect young Song's literary talent to be so good. I am ashamed, ashamed, ha ha." Xiao Qi took the white paper and glanced at it. She looked at Chu Li. To be able to force the heir to the High Duke to write this, he must want to eat your flesh. You have to be careful in the future. "Yes," Chu Li smiled, "but I did not kill him. He should be grateful." "You are thinking too much." Xiao Qi glared at him. "Sai you." Xiao Taiying shook his head and laughed. "You did not kill Lu Yushu. It is indeed rare." He thought that Chu Li would kill Lu Yushu with one slash. He was not afraid that Chu Li did not know the stakes. He was afraid that Chu Li would be impulsive. Killing the Imperial House high officials was also an action that would cause endless trouble. If it was anyone else, they would have to endure it. But Chu Li killed him. Xiao Qi said, "Lu Yushu also wants to eat you. Chu Li, your ability to make enemies is also unique." "Sai, I really did not expect the two families to unite by marriage." Xiao Taiying shook his head. The people from the imperial residence of King and will be here in 2 days. The smile on his face disappeared, and he looked helpless. Shao Qi looked at Chu Li. Second eldest sister has not agreed to let you enter the imperial residence of King An. Chapter 188. Chu Li sighed. Is the second lady determined to marry into the imperial residence of King An? She has made up her mind. Who can persuade her? Xiao Qi looked at Xiao Taiying. Xiao Taiying looked helpless. I have persuaded her so many times, but it is useless. She has already attracted them. It is too late now. The marriage between King and Xiao Shi was a verbal agreement. However, it was the emperor and the High Duke who made the decision. It was the tacit agreement between the two parties. If it was not intentional, it could be ignored. But if one party wanted to follow, the other party could only follow. Chu Li frowned and did not say anything. He could understand the second lady's decision. The public house was getting weaker day by day. The Ren public house and Hawaii public house had a marriage alliance. They were pressuring the public house, while the public house was getting weaker. A marriage alliance with the imperial residence of King and could boost the morale of the public house and stop the decline. Xiao Taiying said, Chu Li, sigh. It has been hard on you. He believed that Chu Li loved Xiao Shi. If not, he would not have risked his life to save Xiao Shi twice. Chu Li sighed. Now that it has come to this, we should try our best to persuade the second lady. I am really worried about her entering the imperial residence alone. Don't worry. Xiao Taiying scoffed. We cannot let her do this. Even if she does not agree, you have to follow her. Chu Li said, the second lady asked me to come back. I can't disobey her. I will write a warrant for you. Xiao Taiying scoffed. Her words do not count. Chu Li nodded. That would be for the best. Xiao Qi glared at Xiao Taiying. What did Big Brother do earlier? If he had been forceful, things would not have come to this, and attracted the people from the imperial residence of King, and Xiao Taiying said, Chu Li, take good care of second sister. She is also suffering. You too. He shook his head as he spoke. He felt sorry for Chu Li. It was too difficult for him. As a man of indomitable spirit, watching his beloved woman marry another man and having to follow her was really a kind of torture. Chu Li agreed to this matter because he had to endure humiliation. The bigger picture was important, and he should be compensated. He turned his head and said, Little sister, Chu Li is now in charge of a courtyard by himself. Let's give him an island. Chu Li hurriedly waved his hand and smiled. Young Master Xiao Taiying. No, I don't dare. Giving an island to himself was completely different from being in charge of the island's affairs. It was truly giving the island to himself. Everything on the island belonged to him, and the High Duke's public house had no right to interfere. It was like a mansion within a mansion, and its status was completely different. It was a great temptation, but he did not want to leave the island of Jade Guardian. Living on the island of Jade Guardian was like living with Shao Qi. Whenever he wanted to see her, he could use the omniscient mirror to see her. His heart would feel empty if he did not see her for a day. It would be boring to live alone on an island. Shao Qi furrowed her brows and pondered. It's good to give him an island. Chu Li quickly said, My lady. Shao Qi said, You can't always stay on my island. Chu Li smiled. It's the most worry-free place for me to live. Moreover, Lady Shao is about to leave the public house. Chief Steward Su has to go as well. The Jade Guardian Island can't be left unattended, right? That's true. Shao Qi nodded. Xiao Taiying smiled and said, How about this? I'll give you an island. You can live there, or you can live on the island of Jade Guardian. It's up to you. When you have time, you can choose it yourself. Let me know when you've decided on an island. Thank you, Master. Chu Li did not refuse anymore. This was indeed the highest reward for a scribe of the public house. He changed the topic. What should we do about the desolate mayor? Xiao Tying suddenly sighed. It's very troublesome. Why did the Wang brothers want to kill him? Chu Li asked. Xiao Tying scoffed. The desolate mayor deserved to die. His son raped a girl. The girl's parents went to the public house to complain, but he was thrown into prison and tortured to death. He's lawless. Chu Li frowned. Xiao Qi scoffed. The Wang brothers' actions are very satisfying. It's really, Chu Li said, if that's the case, in the memorial to the emperor, don't say that he was killed. Just say that he died of a disease. What do you think? Xiao Tying touched his chin. That's a good idea. Let's do it this way. Then, we'll pass Xiao Song's memorial to the emperor. The emperor will probably pretend to be ignorant. This will protect the reputation of the House of High Dukes, Chu Li said. This will also be a warning to the mayors. If they act recklessly, we won't protect them. Good idea. Xiao Tying laughed. These people are in charge of the town alone. No one restrains them. They often act recklessly. Those people from the martial arts world won't swallow their anger. We still have to help them. I'm sick of it. It's best to give them a warning. Xiao Qi frowned. This will also offend the mayors. If they offend them, so be it. Xiao Tying scoffed. They won't dare to do anything. Chu Li said, My lady, when it comes to these mayors, we should mainly give them a warning. Let them have some scruples. Otherwise, if they act recklessly, the heavens will be angry and the people will resent them. It will ruin the reputation of the House of High Dukes. That's right. Xiao Tying slammed the table. We should have dealt with them long ago. Xiao Qi gently nodded and said no more. Chu Li returned to the courtyard. Xue Ling served him attentively. Chu Li said, I like the third lady. You're not joking, right? Xiaoshi said. Little sister cultivated the heart technique of supreme oblivion. It cut off all emotional ties. When she chose to cultivate it, she had already made up her mind to be alone for the rest of her life. She would not be burdened by worldly affairs. She wanted to pursue the ultimate state of martial arts and become an enlightened master. If Chu Li really liked little sister, it was destined to be nothing. Chu Li said solemnly, How can I talk nonsense about this? Xiao Shi was still skeptical. From his expression, she could not tell if he really liked little sister or if he wanted her to give up and not feel guilty. She felt a little complicated and irritated. She said lightly, Little sister is pure and clean. She is indeed likable, but it's impossible for the two of you. Chu Li nodded. Yes, there's a difference in status. Xiao Shi waved her hand and interrupted him. It's not a problem of status. Chu Li smiled. I think it's a problem of status. If I can make a name for myself, I'll be worthy of the third lady in the future. You already have your own island, right? Xiao Shi said. Chu Li nodded. Do you know what this means? Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li shook his head. Xiao Shi smiled faintly. It means that your current status is not inferior to ours, other than Big Brother, who will be a high duke in the future. The three of us will be island owners. You're also an island owner, so you can be on the same level as us. So you're worthy of little sister now. There's no need for you to make a name for yourself. He still gave himself away. Everything he said was to convince her to agree to go to the imperial residence of King and with him. When he said that he liked little sister, half of it was true, and the other half was to accompany her. Chu Li sighed. Second lady, I want to go to the imperial residence of King and to broaden my horizons. That sounds like the truth. Xiaoshi scoffed. Chu Li said, the imperial residence of King and isn't our imperial residence. It's hard to avoid fighting and scheming. I can help a little if I go. I don't have any improper thoughts about you, second lady. Don't worry, don't think too much about it. Xiaoshi rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. Seems like I'm not as good as little sister. Chu Li smiled awkwardly and did not deny it. I'm flattering myself. Xiaoshi waved her hand and scoffed. All right, you can go. Chapter 190. Just as Chu Li stepped onto the Jade Guardian Island, Suru hurriedly welcomed him and waved at him from afar. Chu Li smiled and fist saluted, then followed her to the third floor of the stargazing tower. Xiao Qi's white robe fluttered as her sword gleamed like water. Upon seeing him enter, Xiao Qi sheathed her sword. The dense sword energy was absorbed into the scabbard, leaving not a single trace behind. Chu Li exclaimed in admiration. Her swordsmanship had become more refined, and she was able to control and unleash it freely. When she moved, she could cover the sky and earth, but when she was still, she could return to nothingness. Xiao Qi passed the sword to Su Ru and pointed her finger. The two of them sat on the garden stool, facing each other. How about it? Does second sister agree? Yes. You still have a way. Xiao Qi said faintly. No matter how big brother, and I tried to persuade him, it was useless. If that's the case, I can go without worries. Chu Li asked, when will the envoy from the imperial residence of King arrive? Logically speaking, we should be able to arrive by noon tomorrow, Xiao Qi said. Follow me to pick an island first. Chu Li nodded. Xiao Qi said, there are still 20 islands left in the public house. You can choose any one of them. Some are big, some are small, some are far, some are close, but if it's too far, then forget it. All right, Chu Li replied. Xiao Qi took the teacup from Su Ru and smiled. How did you convince second eldest sister? Chu Li smiled and said nothing. Xiao Qi glared at him. All right, I won't ask. Also, I've gathered some information about King N's imperial residence. I'll have Su Ru send it to the Gloriesville courtyard for you. You can take your time to read it, and you'll know what's going on. Chu Li took the teacup from Su Ru and took a sip. Xiao Qi said, let's go and choose an island then. She put down her teacup, and Chu Li did the same. They left the stargazing tower together. Just as the three of them were about to board the ship, Chu Li said, oh, right, bring Xue Ling along as well. You're quite attentive. Su Ru pursed her lips and smiled. Xue Ling is not in the courtyard. I think she has gone to the martial arts hall. Chu Li nodded. The three of them boarded the boat and headed east. After traveling for 30 miles, they reached a small island. The three of them went up to take a look. There was no one cleaning up the island. It was desolate and messy, with dense trees and weeds. There was nothing beautiful about it, but it looked full of vitality. Chu Li glanced at it. He shook his head and rejected the idea. This island was big, but he didn't like it. Next, they looked at more than a dozen islands, from far away to near. The last one was only 3 miles away from the Jade Guardian Island, located northeast of the island. Xiao Qi pointed at the small island at the bow of the ship. I was planning to keep this island, but Big Brother said that it wasn't big enough and wasn't imposing enough, so he chose that side. You can go up there and see if you like it. Chu Li stepped onto the small island and activated the omniscient mirror. It was a circular island that was only half the size of the Jade Guardian Island. The island was covered in lush greenery. It was far better than the other islands. Spiritual qi surged in from all directions. He could feel the purity of the spiritual qi. There were a few giant trees that had exceptionally pure spiritual qi. It was obvious that they had lived for a long time and were not ordinary. The vitality of this island was more abundant than other places, and the ground was also full of spiritual energy. Chuli nodded in satisfaction. Here then. This place. Shao-Chi looked at him. Don't you think it's too small? This island was only twice the size of the East Garden, and because it was too close to the Jade Guardian Island, it was inevitable that it would be uncomfortable, so no one had chosen it yet. Chuli said, "It's useless if it's too big. It'll be more spacious if it's bigger," Shao-Chi said. Chuli shook his head. "How much space can I take up if I live by myself?" Shao-Chi said, "You live by yourself now, but what about in the future? Your women, children, and even grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren will all live here. When the time comes, it won't be enough. You'll regret it." "That's right." Suru pursed her lips and smiled. "This island will belong to you for generations." Chuli smiled. "Times change. We'll talk about it when the time comes. I'll choose this place. Young Suru, you can arrange the rest." Shao-Chi turned her head and said, "Don't let Chuli worry about these things." "Yes, I'll find someone to clean it up, and then find someone to build it." Ru said, "I think we can live in it in half a year." Chuli said, "The chief still needs to follow me to Snow Lunar Pavilion. I'll do it myself. I'll bring Schwelling along and teach her. After I leave, she'll take over." Suru smiled. "In the future, these trivial matters will be handled by Schwelling." Chuli nodded. The next evening, the setting sun shone on the small courtyard. Chuli sat in the pagoda and cultivated the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait. When the lanterns were lit, he ordered Schwelling to go to the stargazing tower and ask if the messenger from the imperial residence of King and had arrived. He had a bad feeling about this. After Schwelling left the courtyard, Chuli stood up and left the pagoda. He stood in front of the Glorieswell tree and looked up at the sky. Schwelling quickly returned. She pushed the door open and entered with a serious expression. "Master, the envoy from the imperial residence of King and has gone missing." Chuli raised his eyebrows. Schwelling said, "The protectors we sent to lead the way have also disappeared." "Where did you disappear?" "Outside Flying Bird City." Chuli pondered for a moment. Flying Bird City was only 50 miles away. "Young lady has already gone to Iron Eagle Island. Do you want to go and have a look?" Schwelling asked. Chuli shook his head. "Young master is not going? There's no point in going now." Chuli said, "Master Shao Taiying is more experienced in dealing with these matters. Let's wait for news." Schwelling scoffed. "Master, you can really keep your composure." Xiao Taiying sat calmly in the main hall. He held a scroll in his hand and chatted with Shao-Chi. His current appearance was completely different from before. It was as if he had changed into a different person. He was calm and collected, talking cheerfully and wittily without a hint of worry. When it came to Xiao Shi, he was flighty and impatient. The disappearance of the envoy from the imperial residence of King and was a big matter, but he was calm and handled it with ease. Chuli chose the island closest to the Jade Guardian Island. Xiao Taiying laughed. "He's not greedy at all." Shao-Chi put down her teacup and said, "I don't think he's at ease." Xiao Taiying laughed. "Seems like he's not a utilitarian. After all, he's been influenced by Buddhism since he was young." Shao-Chi said, "Tell Xiao Ru not to worry about the cost. Get the best one." Xiao Taiying said, "We owe Chuli too much. We need to compensate him." Shao-Chi nodded lightly. Xiao Taiying put down his scroll and took a sip of tea. "Younger sister, this time it's probably the Rin public house's doing. It could also be the Hawaii public house." Shao-Chi said, "They've been guarding outside the town for a few days and got nothing. They must be angry." Xiao Taiying said, "Do they dare to kill?" Xiao frowned and muttered, "Why public house doesn't dare?" After all, they just submitted a memorial to apologize. It's hard to say for the Rin public house. Lu Yurong is ruthless, and will do it. If they kill the envoy from the imperial residence of King An, then we'll ruin their wedding. Xiao Taiying laughed. Let Chuli do it. He'll definitely turn the world upside down. Xiao shook her head and smiled. Big brother, you can still laugh. What's the use of a bitter face? Xiao Taiying laughed. I'm confident in Elder Zhao and the others. He had already sent Zhao Qingshan and the other 3 grandmasters to rescue them. The public house had eyes and ears all over Flying Bird City. They would definitely find the envoy from the imperial residence of King, and Xiao said, "Second sister," finally agreed. Chu Li's words are still the best. No matter what, he's still her savior. Xiao Taiying laughed. Her imposing manner has weakened a little. They're back. A report came from outside. Master, High Official Zhao requests to see you. Elder Zhao, please come in. Xiao Taiying raised his voice. Zhao Qingshan and the other 3 fluttered into the main hall. Their faces were gloomy. The one with the strongest martial arts. Guard Shah frowned and thought for a moment. He looked at the other 3 and said, "There are 10 of them. The strongest one is about the same size as me. He's in his 70s. The distance between his eyes is very small, and the space between his eyebrows is narrow." Chu Li had already seen the image in his mind. There's a scar under his left eye, and his hands are exceptionally long. The teeth in the middle are a little black, right? The guard surnamed Shah hurriedly nodded. Chu Li turned his head and said, "Master, they are the high official of the Rin public house." The guard named Shah hesitated for a moment. Chu Li said, "He introduced himself. Is he from the Huai public house?" They seem to have inadvertently let slip that they're from Huai public house, said the protector with the surname Shah. Chu Li smiled. If he did not have the omniscient mirror, he would inevitably be deceived. At most, he would be dubious. He would never dare to conclude that it was the Rin public house. No matter how bold the speculation was, he could only speculate that it was the enemy of Huai public house who framed them. How would he think that it was the Rin public house who wanted to marry Huai public house? This Lu Yurong. Her method was really clever. She could not gain anything from him because she did not think of the existence of the omniscient mirror. Xiao said, "Lu Yurong wants to frame Huai public house." Wanting to marry Huai public house and still not forget to plot against Huai public house, Xiao Taiying sneered and said, "This woman, she's really vicious." Xiao looked at Chu Li. Chu Li slowly nodded, indicating that he could conclude. Zhao Qingshan said, "Then why not kill Protector Shah and the others?" If Protector Shah and the others were killed, Chu Li would not ask these questions. Xiao Taiying snorted and said, "Lu Yurong often kills many birds with one stone. Her calculation is very good. First, she wants to use Protector Shah and the others to frame Huai public house and let us fight with Huai public house. Second, she wants us to suspect Protector Shah and the others. She is suspicious and disturbing people's hearts. Third, she wants King An's imperial residence to suspect us. In short, she is so vicious." Xiao pondered. "Can we use it to destroy their marriage?" "Good idea." Xiao Taiying clapped and laughed. "I will personally question Huai public house." The heir to the High Duke of Huai public house had just submitted a memorial asking for forgiveness. If he killed the people from King An's imperial residence, what would the imperial residence think? No matter how strong Huai public house was, they would not dare to do this. They would definitely try their best to investigate this matter. It was inevitable that they would fight with Rin public house. "Big brother, you want to go personally?" Xiao Qi frowned. Xiao Taiying said, Chu Li can't do it. Heir to the High Duke Song's eyes turn red when he sees him. He won't listen to anything. If Elder Zhao and the others go, High Duke Song won't even see them. It's better for me to go personally. High Duke Song will definitely embarrass you, Xiao Qi said. Heir to the High Duke Song will also take the opportunity to retaliate. No matter how much they cross the line, they won't dare to kill me. Xiao Taiying smiled and looked at Chu Li. This is all thanks to Chu Li. Chu Li's ghost-like light body technique was a great deterrent. Everyone understood that if anything happened to him, the heir to the High Duke would not be able to escape the assassination. The Run public house would also be assassinated. Chu Li said, Master, you can't be careless. I'll go and return quickly. I'll leave the public house to you. Third younger sister. Xiao Taiying's expression became solemn. Let someone continue to investigate this matter. Xiao Qi saw that he had made up his mind and nodded gently. Do you want Chu Li to follow? No need. Xiao Taiying laughed. Chu Li will only spoil things if he follows. Elder Zhao and the others are enough. Chu Li said, Master, High Duke Song is also an old fox. He may not be fooled. I don't expect them to turn hostile immediately. I'll stab them in the back first. Xiao Taiying laughed. I should also have a good talk with High Duke Song. Chu Li slowly nodded. Xiao Qi said, Protector Sha Qingshan, all of you go back and have a good rest. This matter ends here. Protector Sha Qingshan hurriedly said, Third Lady, the envoy from the imperial residence of King, and was dead, but they were still alive. Why? There must be a mole among them. Not only would outsiders think so, but they would also suspect it. Third Lady Xiao Qi was responsible for the mole in the Qingsu public house. They wanted Xiao Qi to investigate and prove their innocence. Xiao Qi said, All of you are fine. Protector Sha Qingshan and the other three immediately let out a long sigh of relief and thanked her. Xiao Qi waved her hand, and the four of them retreated. Elder Zhao, we'll depart for the Huai public house tomorrow. You should prepare, Xiao Taiying said. Yes, Xiao Qingshan and the other three also retreated. Only Chu Li, Xiao Qi, Xiao Taiying, and Lin Quan were left in the hall. Chu Li, there's one more thing. I'll have to trouble you to go to the imperial residence of King, and Xiao Taiying muttered. Chu Li fist saluted. Master, I'll do as you say. Xiao Taiying sighed. About King and I'll write a letter. You should personally deliver it to King and explain it to him. Chu Li nodded. Lin Quan ground the ink. Xiao Taiying picked up the brush and thought for a while. Then he dipped the ink and wrote 3 pages in one go. Lin Quan helped to dry it and put it in an envelope. He sealed it with wax and handed it to Chu Li. Xiao Taiying said, Originally, a protector would be enough to deliver the letter. However, their status is not high enough. It'll be too disrespectful. Only you can do it. Moreover, you'll be entering the imperial residence of King, and it'll be good to take a look in advance. Chu Li took the letter and kept it in his arms. I'll leave now. Xiao Qi frowned. King will inevitably be angry. Just ignore him. Chu Li smiled and nodded. He fist saluted and left Iron Eagle Island to return to the small courtyard. Xue Ling complained while packing. Master, why does this kind of task always fall on you? You're such a bully. Chu Li smiled. Don't say that. You don't need me to deliver a normal letter. It's not good news. The imperial residence of King, and will definitely not be happy. Xue Ling packed the bag quickly and handed it to Chu Li. You'll definitely be bullied if you go. Chapter 192. Chu Li stood outside the fairy's capital and looked at the towering city. This was an old city that had existed for thousands of years. For thousands of years, in this city, There had been countless tragedies of separation and reunions, the destruction of nations, the rise and fall of prosperity and decline. The city wall was 100 meters high, like a 30-story building in the future. It covered the sky, and the people were like ants. The bricks of the city were covered with moss and retained the traces of time. Chu Li stood under the city and looked at it for a while. He led his horse into the towering city gate. The guard looked at his waist tag and waved his hand to let him go. As soon as he stepped into the city, he was greeted by the hustle and bustle of the city. There were hawkers, bargaining sounds, laughter, and curses. He led his horse and walked slowly through the crowd. After walking for 5 miles, there was another tall and mighty city gate in front of him. This was the inner city gate. The inspection was stricter. There were more than 10 guards at the gate. All of them were spirited and sharp. They were all people who had been on the battlefield. Chu Li had the scribe waist tag of the House of High Dukes. He walked for more than 10 miles and finally arrived in front of a tall imperial residence. There was a plaque on top of the gate, Imperial Residence of Prince, and was hung. The 3 big words were shining in gold. The gate was covered with yellow glazed tiles. The 10-meter-tall gate was painted red and shiny. The rows of copper nails were shiny. Under the tall gate, the 4 scribes in front of the gate seemed short, but their eyes were like lightning. They stared at Chu Li and his horse coldly. Chu Li first tied the horse to the hitching post at the side and walked to the steps of the public house's entrance. He closed fist saluted and said in a clear voice, "Rank 2 scribe of the public house, Chu Li has been ordered to deliver a letter to King," and his voice was calm, but it slowly spread out. The entire imperial residence could probably hear him. The 4 scribes stared at him coldly. They thought his voice was too loud. A small door opened, and a middle-aged man in embroidered clothes walked out. He stood on the steps and looked at Chu Li. He asked calmly, "The public house?" Chu Li nodded. "Yes." "Give me the letter." The middle-aged man in embroidered clothes slowly extended his hand. His face was like jade. He was handsome and had an elegant temperament. He was like a well-read, middle-aged Confucian scholar. He did not look like a gatekeeper. Chu Li sighed. The gatekeeper of the imperial residence was also extraordinary. He took out the letter and walked up 9 steps to the man. He handed over the letter. The middle-aged man took the letter and glanced at it. He said lazily, "Since it's from the public house, come in." Chu Li gave a fist salute. Chief Zhu walked to the window under the plum tree and presented the letter with both hands. King tore open the seal and took it out to read it slowly. His sallow face became darker and darker, causing Chief Zhu to tremble. "Ha!" King slammed the window frame and sneered. Chief Zhu carefully raised his head. King scoffed. "Elder Zhu, your brother is dead." "What?" Chief Zhu was shocked. He quickly said, "How could this be?" "He was killed halfway." King sneered. "It seems that he did not respect me." Chief Zhu's face darkened. "Your Royal Highness, I only have this one brother." All right. I thought it was a good job, but it turned out to be a job that would cost one his life. Who can you blame?" King impatiently waved his hand. "Weren't you the one who begged me to put your brother in?" "Your Royal Highness, who did it?" Chief Zhu's eyes were spitting fire as he gritted his teeth. "Heir to the High Duke said that it was the Ren public house." King sneered. "You can only believe half of it. Go and call the scribe here." "Yes," Chief Zhu said in a deep voice. Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror to its limit and looked at King An's mind. King watched Chief Zhu leave and threw the letter on the table. He sneered and shook his head. Chu Li was shocked and frowned. The imperial residence of An had planted an informant among the messengers. He informed the Ren public house and used the Ren public house to kill the messengers. The goal was to not marry Seoshur. It was a taboo for the Royal Highness to have a marriage with the High Duke's public house. Moreover, it was the position of the princess. Once he ascended to the throne, the princess would become the empress. The public house would become a powerful force that would be difficult to control. More importantly, there was no need to mention the empress. If he married the lady of the public house, he would not have any hope of inheriting the throne. He would not be able to become the emperor. As a prince, he was only one step away from the position where life and death were in his hands. How could he be willing to do that? Therefore, he did everything he could to destroy it. Killing the messengers in the public house was only the first step. There were more methods. If it did not work, there was still the last step. He heard that Seoshur's health was not good. If she died of illness, no one would say anything. He could also cut off the connection with the public house. Chu Li sat by the stone table and frowned. He was furious. As expected of the royal blood, his nature was cold and heartless. The younger brother of the chief of the outer residence was sacrificed without hesitation in order to avoid suspicion. Such a temperament was really disappointing. Compared to him, the public house's Seo Taing, Seo Shur, and Seo Chi were like naive children. If they really fought with him, they would not be his match.